Waldo Politics is now live streaming Just Chatting. Cannon throws out Hunter's case to Trump. Fact-checking. Getting started soon. Toss any links to stories you want to talk about into the Discord. Discord. https discord gg beignet tridix 8. Hello. Oh, hi there.
Good morning. Hello. Hi. How you doing? My name is Waldo, and I'm here to feel the politics with you. I am here joined today with Thomas. Thomas, say hello. Make sure everybody can hear
Hello.
you. There he is. I think I've got the audio set just the same as it was last time, so I think our volume should be good. Popog, let me know if it's too loud or too quiet on anybody's end. Not a lot I can do about it anyway. Hi, how's it going? How you doing, Thomas?
I am doing very well.
Oh, good.
More like Tom ass got him.
Oh, brutal.
Damn.
Popog's in a mood today.
I thought Popog was supposed to be on my side. What's going on here?
He's out for blood today. So today is Saturday. So what we're going to do today is cover a couple of stories. We're going to look at the Trump speech a little bit. I've got the CNN fact check, very exciting. Then we're going to take a look at Popog. I hope our senior legal analyst will be here for us talking about Eileen Cannon tossing out the thing and how it's going to help Hunter Biden. It's a great, super plan on her part. So let's get it started. Let's get going. If you're in Kick Chat or Twitch Chat, the lovely Lady Canooch can read all your thoughts to us.
Canhouch.
Well, if I spell it right, she can. If you're in YouTube chat, she can't. So I've tried to fix it and I can't. I've tried so very hard. But feel free to give us a like and a follow and a subscribe over there on YouTube as well. I will keep it up on the screen over here so I can see it. So if you're in YouTube chatting, I should probably see it unless I forget. So let's
When did Kyle start using his name as the...
Well, that's the YouTube chat. He's on YouTube today. And yeah, a lot of YouTube users are attached to their Microsoft account, which is attached to your name. So you almost have to go into the settings and change that. And most people don't bother.
YouTube is just too privacy focused. Can't let robots see what you type.
Yeah, you can't let Knooch read those things out loud. She is a hacker. Let's get one of these things up. Here we go. That one there. Then we go to the webcam screen and we click on the buttons. Window capture there, and then where are you? There it is. All right, now we're up on screen. Fact check. Trump makes...
I mean, it will use your real government name, but the words you type gotta keep those for human eyes only.
Right, Popo. Yeah, you're right. The robot is not allowed to read your comments. She is allowed to see your name, and you're allowed to tell everybody what your name is. It's fine. Fact check. Trump makes more than 20 false claims at RNC acceptance speech. So, very fun. Not a surprise to, I think, anybody. I watched the whole speech. I live streamed the whole thing, and it was...
Oh, are we starting with this one? Okay,
yeah. We'll start over here, I think.
All right, I'm about halfway through this article, and it's trash. Actually.
It's trash. Okay, so the fact checkers are wrong, or they're exaggerating.
Exaggerating, wrong, nitpicking, all three. Yeah.
Okay. Trump claimed that there is a record inflation under President Joe Biden. President Donald Trump claimed that there is record inflation under President Joe Biden. Trump's claim is false. The current inflation rate is 3%. In June 24, it was nowhere near the all-time record of 23% set in 1920. Trump could fairly say, so they're telling him what he could say to be correct, that the inflation rate is at a 40-year high when it was at 9.1, but it has since plummeted. He could say that it was at a 40-year high at 9.1, and that would be a correct statement, but he doesn't say that. He said record inflation, which is not true.
Actually, the inflation rate in 1920 is not comparable to the inflation rate now because the metric used to determine inflation has changed. We've changed the basket of goods that we use to analyze inflation. So nowadays, for example, the basket of goods for inflation doesn't even include housing, I don't believe. So the fact that they're not comparable makes this kind of a silly fact check in the first place. 24% in 1920.
And you wonder why I say that the economy is all made up. Because they just change the rules whenever they fucking feel like it, man. The economy is a mess of made up
So, for
nonsense.
example,
the economy's not real.
Border crossings under Obama supposedly came way down during Obama's tenure. But the reason that those statistics came way down is because they changed what counts as an encounter at the border.
Right. So if you statistics are worse than lies because they make you think that they're real. The economy is just thousands upon thousands of made up statistics, just like the one you mentioned.
I would say that the hitting a 40-year high, which even in the last 40 years they've changed the basket of goods that counts for inflation. I'd say that it probably has been. It probably is a record in terms of inflation, and if we were to compare the two times with the same baskets, we'd see it equivalent to 1920. But I honestly have no idea if it would be.
Okay. So the economy
record inflation is one of those.
I got you.
Is one of those things where he may be exaggerating, but the fact check itself is using statistics that if CNN were to write a fact check article on the fact check article, that's probably what they would say.
Okay.
How are we going to send the baskets back in time to check, though?
Good question.
Basket time machines. Good idea. Let's
Elon
write
will
that down.
One.
Elon can. Trump's misleading claim about North Korean missile launches during his presidency. Now, this is, I think, a nitpick. I agree with you on this one. Former President Donald Trump said Thursday that he had got along with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. We stopped the missile launches from North Korea. But no, I got along with him, and we stopped the missile launches from North Korea. Now North Korea is acting up again. They're suggesting this is misleading because they started up again before he left office. So,
yeah. So, I think
this is
it feels nitpicky, but at the same time, I'll give it to him. You know, like okay,
there were
they started launching missiles.
There were also balloons.
Yeah.
Chinese balloons also came over. He said that this article does not mention the Chinese balloons, but it's absolutely true. Chinese balloons came into America while Donald Trump was president. They just didn't talk about it. They just didn't. The news reporters didn't notice, and the defense people just didn't advertise it. He said specifically, no balloons. No balloons came over under my watch, or I would have done something about it. That's an absolute lie. They totally fucking did. Either they didn't tell him because he would have gone stupid and nuts about it, or they just said, "Oh yeah, it's just a fucking balloon. Who cares? It's not that big a deal. It was never a big deal to begin with."
Fair enough.
So I'm ranting about that one. I've gone off the rails already. It's fucking 5 minutes in. Trump on his claim of defeating ISIS in a couple of months. Former President Donald Trump claimed that RNC speech that we defeated 100% of ISIS in Syria and Iraq, something that was going to take 5 years. We did it in a matter of a couple of months.
This is one that
what does fully liberated mean? I read this. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Finally, someone fighting against Big Balin.
So it's this is one where I think the fact checkers are just
I blame
wrong,
Balloon Boy.
honestly. So the ISIS caliphate, if you look at the size of ISIS caliphate, yes, the fact check article says that it already had shrunk by 23% in 2016 and 14% in 2015. But by the end of 2017, ISIS had lost over 95% of its territory since its peak.
Okay.
So we had major wipeouts of ISIS during that very first year of Trump's presidency.
Okay.
And the way I would refer to it is, you know how... Hey, you ever played StarCraft?
Yeah.
All right, you know how you haven't technically won the game until your opponent has been completely obliterated down to the last unit, right?
Right.
But if you've destroyed their main base, and then you've destroyed their satellite bases, and they don't have any SCVs left.
There's one little drone.
There's like maybe, one drone or something, like one Marine or something around, like floating around. You technically don't get the victory screen until you go kill that one guy.
Okay.
That's how ISIS was at the end of 2017.
And that is what fully liberated means?
I mean...
This is the part that I didn't take a stance on. This was fully liberated. Does that mean everyone's been murdered?
Hold on a second. He didn't say that it was fully liberated in the speech. He said they were defeated.
I know. With the fact checkers,
I would say that when there's that one...
I don't know what the hell that means.
Right. No. So
I'm coming down against the fact checker right now. I'm like, hey, fact checker, what the fuck does fully liberated mean? What are you trying to pull here, fact checker?
Exactly. And he didn't say that he fully liberated. He said he defeated ISIS. And I would say that ISIS at the end of 2017 was defeated. Like, they were done. They had maybe a couple of dudes
lifting off your command center and hiding it in the top corner of the map is just bad manners.
Exactly. That's what they were doing. Yeah. And in fact, even in April of 2017, 3 months into his presidency, they were basically doing that. They were in a cave system, and we dropped the largest known non-nuclear bomb on them to blow up their caves.
Right. The Moab. I remember that.
Yep. I'm gonna say the fact checkers on this one are just wrong.
I think the fact checker is weird and twisted about this one. I don't know why he would do it this way. I don't know why he's bending the things in the way. Okay, so I'm gonna go off the script for a minute. Why do Trump supporters in my YouTube comments tell me that Trump had zero war? That's the line they give me. He defeated. He bragged about that. He bragged about starting no new wars, but his supporters come into YouTube chat and tell me zero war, world peace. But in the same speech,
they have TDS.
He says they have TDS. I think Trump is deranged and they have a syndrome.
Zero war is a weird statement. I agree with you. I would go with zero new wars.
Zero new wars. Okay.
The U.S. has had zero wars since WW2.
Popog's onto something there, too. There's no actual wars since World War II.
Checkmate atheists.
Because we don't declare war anymore. We just do police actions. I think it's a weird juxtaposition. In his own speech, he said that it was world peace while he was in charge, and he dropped the largest non-nuclear bomb ever, and he destroyed ISIS. But that wasn't world peace then, Donnie.
I understand your the assessment of the contradiction there. But talking about zero war, I believe, is he was specifically discussing wars that were happening that didn't involve us.
Okay.
So like
no new
when
wars is what he's
so
was
no new
bragging
wars
on,
for
but
us.
his
But then
followers
also
don't comprehend that. They just say
during
no war.
hold on, no, during the speech there was no new wars. We defeated ISIS, and then there was Putin didn't invade anybody during Trump's presidency, which is true, even though he invaded somebody during each one of the previous presidencies.
He was doing Cold War shit in Donbass.
And then
there was still conflict in Donbass.
Israel is now in a war with Palestine.
They always have been. That's been
we don't know wars
constant.
anymore. We just fruitlessly bring democracy for 20 years.
There was still hot war going on back then. The missiles were still flying over. The Iron Dome was working its ass off. All of it. It's not as bad.
It's nothing
now.
like it.
I know it wasn't as bad as it is now, but it was still happening. It was still roiling. It was still boiling. It was still under the. It was still simmering, maybe.
But yeah.
Misleading claim. Donald Trump's misleading claim that federal judges ruled against him was unconstitutional. Donald Trump said Thursday that Florida federal judge who was overseeing the classified documents case dismissed the criminal charges against the former president.
Palestine was at war with Israel, but Israel was not at war with Palestine.
Finding that the prosecutor and the fake documents case against me were totally unconstitutional. The prosecutor and the fake documents case against me were totally unconstitutional. It's misleading, according to this guy, because Eileen Cannon wrote in her ruling that the appointment of special counsel Jack Smith, who was prosecuting the case, violated the Constitution. But Cannon specifically did not comment on the validity of Trump's charges he was facing or whether Trump's alleged mishandling of classified documents was proper. So I think he's gone with misleading right here.
Well, so it is misleading because the judge said that the prosecutor appointment itself was unconstitutional.
Not the case.
Not the case itself. Okay. So
it's only a small. I think that might be a nitpick as well.
I mean, it is a nitpick. But fair enough. I'll agree with the fact checker here that the case itself may not be unconstitutional, but the prosecutor is what was ruled on as unconstitutional.
Okay. Which
so
again,
we'll
talk...
get that one. What? How would you do this on PolitiFact? Like a half true?
Well, I think misleading is the right term. He's talking about misleading, a thing,
sure.
And he's slightly
he's
changing...
lumped in something else. Yeah.
Yeah, he's slightly changing it. Then, yeah, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. After we do this, we'll talk about a couple of other things. Oh, and we have to be interrupted by a baby dog. Bobo, the baby bark boy, is here. Hello, everybody.
It's Bobo.
Hi. He's got his little bra on, his little harness. So because he went on a walk this morning. So you're calm and chill now, right? Right? You gonna be calm? You gonna be chill? Not gonna be barking up a storm? Okay. No, I can't play fetch with you right now. I cannot play fetch with you right now. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Interruption over. Let's do the next one. What's next? Trump on the impact of immigration on Medicare and Social Security. Democrats are going to destroy Social Security and Medicare because of all these people, all these millions are coming in, and they're going to be on Social Security, Medicare, and other things, and you're not going to be able to afford it. They're destroying your Social Security and your Medicare. This guy flat out says Trump is wrong. In fact, the opposite is true, particularly in the near term. Many undocumented immigrants work, which means they pay much needed payroll taxes, and this bolsters Social Security and Medicare, trust funds, and extends their solvency. Immigrants who are working legally typically won't collect benefits for many years. As for those that are undocumented, some are working under fake Social Security numbers, so they're paying payroll taxes but don't qualify to collect the benefits.
Okay. And I'm willing to give this one to the fact checker.
Okay.
Yep. So the end of this particular area does grant a warning at the very least to the gains would be reversed by amnesty or legalization of the undocumented immigrants. But overall, what Trump was saying is generally wrong.
Okay. Right, because they don't get those benefits.
Yeah. So we are 5 claims in at this point out of 20. And so the first one didn't seem fair because of the basket of goods. The second one, nitpick. The third one, just wrong. The fourth one, we said misleading. So what are we really at, like, if we include this one as one for a full wrong thing that Trump said, then are we at like a total of maybe 2 out of 5?
Maybe.
If we give a half point for misleading.
So we're at 2 out of 5. That's I think that's a fine scorecard if you'd like to keep it. I think the economy one is, everybody's wrong about the economy, but that's just me being crazy. Is he wrong about what he said about number one at the economy? Yes. But so is every economist that's ever existed. And so are you wrong about the economy, and so am I wrong about the economy. The economy is whatever you fucking feel like it. It is 100% just your feelings all day, every day, nonstop, and those can't turn into numbers. Anyway, I don't want to open that basket of worms again, but
I'm
so,
never wrong on the economy.
You're suggesting, that's the problem. Nobody's ever wrong about the economy. And no one's ever right about the economy. It is a nebulous dream state that isn't real. So, yeah, this one is definitely wrong. Okay. So immigrants are good for Social Security because this is why the IRS doesn't chase after them. This is why the IRS doesn't chase them down, because it gives them money. It gives them revenue. They don't mind. If you want to do, I don't know, I suppose, conspiracy theories, this is why the Democrats allow it. This is why they don't crack down, because it funds our government. It doesn't get them votes the way Donald Trump often says. I don't know if this thing covers it, but he talked about illegal votes. There's just no such thing.
I would contest that, but it would take way too much time.
There's not. Was there 4 million illegal votes for Hillary Clinton? There's no evidence of that. There's no evidence of it.
But hold on. God damn it. So it's not a matter of the illegal immigrants voting themselves most of the time. The problem is that they'll have children here that then will vote blue because they are automatically citizens just by being born on our soil.
Right.
As part of the 14th Amendment.
Because those are Americans.
Was terribly written.
Those are Americans.
Yeah.
And I like it when Americans vote. This is good. You're born in America. You're an American. You get to vote for America. This is good. This is great. I love this idea.
I don't know. I mean,
I voted 4 million
my
times, but one
my
of those
dad
was
was born in
legitimate,
Puerto
so there
Rico.
were
It doesn't
only
mean he's actually Puerto Rican.
3,999,999 illegitimate votes for her.
We got to start the process somewhere. And I like that line that we've drawn. We can discuss that line later, where the lines are and where they go. Okay, Trump on trade deal with China. So it says, what did Trump say? Donald Trump claimed that he struck a trade deal with China requiring the country to purchase $50 billion worth of American products. They buy $50 billion worth, he said at the Republican National Convention on Thursday. The claim that then the facts are that the claim on China bought $50 million worth of American products as a result of a trade deal is false. Trump is referring to what is known as Phase 1 deal he struck with Beijing in 2019. But while the deal required, so he's correct that it required China to buy $50 billion worth of American agricultural products, Beijing didn't live up to its commitment. Beijing didn't do it. I don't think this is a hit on Trump, honestly. U.S. agricultural imports to China received the trade award by the levels, Phase 1 commitments, blah, 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 blah. So they chose not to do it.
I would call a nitpick, and also an ignoring of other circumstances. So it did require them to buy $50 billion worth of American agricultural products specifically over the course of 2 years, starting in 2020. But what else happened in 2020? Can we think of anything else that might have impacted global economics in 2020?
No, nothing happened. It was a very boring year. Nothing happened.
Right.
It was incredibly quiet. Everybody enjoyed themselves. World peace, according to Donald Trump. But so you're saying that's why they didn't live up to it?
So that's, I mean, world economic activity took a major hit in that year due to COVID.
Okay, and because
at the same time,
they didn't have the money, so they chose not to do this.
Right. And so they agreed to buy 50 billion worth of American product in 2019, and then 2020 happened. At the same time, none of these links actually like they link a bunch of stuff in here. None of them actually give us cold hard numbers and facts, which is interesting because if you click on the one that's like underscored for 50 billion worth of American agricultural products, it says that the trade deal was
why they
for
lab leaked the
200.
virus to get out of that
not
trade
that one.
deal.
Did not live up to its. One of these says that the deal was for 200 billion, not 50, and it's like, wait, what? And then there's so the one that says China misses trade targets it promised to Trump, and it's 200 billion in exports, and then China bought only 57% of the exports it committed to. So, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what they're even claiming here.
Okay, I was willing to give Trump a pass on this one if he had structured the sentence a little bit better. I put together a plan where China would buy 50 billion worth.
That's fair.
And because he did, he put together a plan. They were going to do this economic nonsense, which is all made up and fake anyway. And then they chose not to. They backed out of that one. I'm not calling this a strike on Trump, honestly.
Fair enough.
Donald Trump exaggerates how much higher gas prices are right now. So again, gas prices.
Nitpick.
So it's 200 overall, 50 of which is agriculture, and I guess they missed that target.
Right, Popog. That's it's
exactly.
So he said gas prices are up 60%. Gasoline nationwide 351. That's 47%. So it's not. It's just a slightly different number. All numbers are liars. So it was actually 47, and he said 60. Is that a nitpick?
Oh, hold on. Going back to that previous one.
Mm-hmm.
So 50 of which is agricultural, but Trump never said anything about agricultural product. He just said 50 billion worth of American product.
So he's being vague?
So it's more vague, and then the fact checker decided to add to the sentence himself.
Well, he has to. If Trump talks about the billions and billions of dollars with China, he has to try and figure out what the fuck he's talking about. So Trump is vague. The fact checker has to be like, what the fuck are you talking about with this 50 billion worth? And then he goes and he guesses that he's talking about this. Because, Trump's vague. He talks about huge.
Well, and
he makes up numbers.
Political speech. They're all vague.
Some of them are extra vague. But we haven't seen the DNC yet. Gas prices. It's actually 47. He said it was 60. Is that a nitpick? Kind of.
I think it is. Same time, and also,
it's also the only thing that matters to most voters. Swear to God.
Up 47%. And honestly,
it could also be 47 by average price of gas and 60 by average sale volume weight, your average by the penis length of the pumper.
Jesus Christ. I mean, right now it's 351. Wasn't it higher earlier? Like 380 something? When did he get his numbers? And
that's economy. That's why you can't trust economists or economies or numbers or percentages or 60%. You can't trust any of these things because
but I'm also going to
economist will say $7 in one place and $2 in a different place, and they'll choose the dates. The economists lie to you all the time.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go ahead and nitpick the fact checker here, who is nitpicking. The United States does not have a strategic
that math
gasoline.
Checks out as long as you measure from the base of the balls.
The United States does not have a strategic gasoline reserve. We have a petroleum reserve, crude oil. There is no gasoline reserve. Gasoline goes bad if you leave it sitting for too long.
Has to do with anything.
That's what
this
fucking fact checker wrote.
He wrote, okay, gas prices 60% nationwide. Joe Biden inaugurated Strategic gasoline reserve. There isn't such a thing. You're telling me that
Yep.
the fact checker is incorrect about this. There is no such thing as a strategic gasoline reserve. There is a strategic petroleum reserve.
Yep.
And is that what he's talking about? Or is he
no?
the
But
wrong
I'm
word
nitpicking
here?
the fact checker
Okay,
the
so
same way that fact
he's a
checker is
buffoon
nitpicking.
for putting the wrong word. But
Yeah, what a dumbass.
What a dumbass for putting gasoline instead of petroleum reserve. That's fine with me. I like being technically correct, and he is not technically correct here. I don't think
he knows the word petroleum. He uses it later in the same paragraph.
I don't think it matters. The economists can play with numbers all day long and give you whatever fucking number you want. If you want it to be 60%, I've no doubt that number came from some economist that wants Trump to win. Because economists will lie to you and just make up whatever fucking number they want, and then they'll bend the numbers, and they'll bend the dates and the times and the percentages until they get the number they fucking want. Because I don't like economists. I think they're all liars. And the economy
specifically, if in order for it to be 60% higher, it would have to be at 382 per gallon.
Okay. Well, it's for something where I live, so.
Yeah, and it's
a
disingenuous $5 where I'm at right now.
It's $5 in California. So a disingenuous person could take that $5 and say it's $5, which is why you can't trust economists or anybody who's talking about the economy. Trump claims government hired 88,000 IRS agents. They didn't hire agents; they hired workers. Not all of them were agents. So that's the 88,000 figure comes from a 2021 Treasury Department report that estimates the IRS could hire 86,000 full-time employees, not solely enforcement agents, over the course of the decade with a nearly $80 billion investment. So they got $80 billion. They could hire that many employees. I suppose they could hire 88,000 IRS agents. They haven't. He said the government recently hired 88,000 IRS agents. So that is not correct. He is trying to scare people. Maybe we'll come back to it later, but I think all of these things are to induce fear into the people.
I mean, I see where it would come from in a political speech, but it is wrong. So, yeah.
Trump on Biden increasing Americans' taxes 4 times. The president, Donald Trump, repeated his claim.
But my mom's Facebook repost says 8,800 agents all armed with Uzis and fentanyl cannons.
Right, they're coming for you. They're going to get you. Repeated his claim that Joe Biden wanted to hike people's taxes by 4 times. This is the only administration that said we're going to raise your taxes 4 times what you're paying now. This falls to just as it was when Trump made the same claim during the 2020 election speech. Biden has proposed quadrupling Americans' taxes. His plan would raise average tax incomes for low-income households by 24, leave them effectively unchanged for middle-income households, and lower tax incomes significantly for the highest-income taxpayers.
So this one in particular is one that I take issue with because it says increasing Americans' taxes by 4 times. And then they turn around and they're talking about take-home income, right? Or after-tax income. Those are not the same thing. So, for example, if I make $100, right, and $5 of it is taxed away from me, right? That's 5%. So my take-home is $95, right? If we were to quadruple my tax to $20 instead of $5, right? My take-home is still $80. So it goes from 95% take-home to 80% take-home, which is only a reduction of, when you talk about take-home, it's like, what, 15%? So you can't talk about take-home pay declines when you talk about how much your taxes are being increased, which this whole everything in this area of the fact check is just talking about people's take-home pay and how much that either declines or increases versus how much are we paying in taxes and does someone's tax burden quadruple or not?
Does it quadruple? This is suggesting nowhere near the quadrupling, Trump claims.
That's because they're talking. Look at the line directly above that. They're talking about after-tax incomes declining. That's not the same thing. Tax burden increasing is not the same thing as an after-tax income decline.
The very biggest burden under the Biden plan would have carried by the very richest households. The Tax Policy Center found that households at the top 0.1% would have seen their after-tax incomes decline.
And that's the problem right
20%. There. I don't know what any of that means. I'm not going to fucking lie to you. This is all gibberish.
I just illustrated it.
I listened to it, and I can't comprehend what you're talking about.
Okay.
I really can't. And that's a failing on my part, I know. But the economy is made up magic witchcraft. It always has been. And what you're talking is this specific brand of witchcraft is different from the other brand of witchcraft.
Okay, so remember when I was talking about the $100 and
sure.
My original tax is $5, right? Okay. If I quadruple that tax burden to $20, right? So that means that now 20% of my gross income is now taxed as opposed to 5%, right? That's a quadrupling. Okay. Now I used to take home $95 and now I take home $80. And the difference between 95 and 80 when I throw it into this calculator here is 18%. So my after-tax income only declined 18%. But my tax burden did quadruple because I used to pay $5 and now I'm paying $20. So when this website here, this article says that after-tax income only declined by 20% for some people, well, guess what? That doesn't mean that their tax burden did not quadruple.
If you say so. It's all fucking Greek to me, honestly. I swear to God. I'm not kidding. Maybe I'm too fucking stupid to comprehend it, but it still seems like
I don't understand how this is difficult. Five times 4.
The
5 times 4 is 20, right?
You're telling me that the fucking people on CNN are lying and stupid and wrong, and that they're telling me that Donald Trump is wrong, and Donald Trump is fucking stupid and wrong all the time.
Well,
Everybody's wrong about the
economy
all the time.
People on CNN are stupid. People on CNN are maybe not be stupid and wrong, but Daniel Dale is certainly stupid and wrong.
Everyone on the economy is wrong all the time. There is no one. I mean 0 people on the planet who comprehend the economy and can tell you the truth about it. It is a fever dream that barely even exists. It's like telling me I'm wrong about my dreams.
No. This is
and you're telling me you're wrong
numbers.
Like no,
this is
not
specific. No, it is.
It's not. That's the thing.
It's
they
literally
put numbers
just
on top
math.
of the dreams. They put numbers on top of the dreams and then tell you that it's numbers and it's not. It's not real.
CNN clearly didn't use the same metric as Trump statement, so it's an invalid fact check either way.
Okay, so Popog is saying that it's didn't use the same metric as Trump's statement. Okay, so they're measuring different. They're using different measuring sticks. Is that what they're doing here?
Yes, that's
Thomas?
exactly what I'm telling you.
Right.
Is tax burden and after-tax take-home pay is not the same thing.
I don't know what either of those are.
Do you know the difference between gross and net income?
No, I don't.
So when you look at and
now you're gonna tell me.
When you look at your pay stub, you know how they have a section that says gross pay, and then they have taxes listed, and then there's net pay. And the net pay is less than the gross pay.
If you say so.
Okay. All right. Next.
No, I'm not being stubborn here. I don't get it. I don't look at those things. I look at how much I have in the account. That's it. That's what I do.
Fair enough.
Because it's all nonsense. And it's all filled with people who are going to lie to you. Donald Trump is going to get out his measuring stick and tell you what he feels and tell what benefits him. And then,
no.
Then his economists are going to get out their measuring stick and tell you what helps them. And then Joe Biden's going to get out his measuring stick and tell him.
Is obviously using a different metric than Trump did.
Because it benefits him. Right? I'm being conspiratorial here. Why did that CNN fact checker use a different measuring stick?
Because the CNN fact checker is a fucking dishonest piece of shit.
And it benefits him to do so, to be that dishonest sack of shit. Everyone in the economy is a dishonest piece of shit who uses their own metrics to benefit themselves, which is why I don't trust anything anybody is talking about, even you, when you talk about the economy. It's
I'm always right
all
about the economy.
made up. It's all, every single person involved has their own measuring stick. None of it is based on solid fact. It's all imaginary. And you can have your
Just
measuring stick that's
because
different than the CNN
there
measuring stick, and Trump's
are ways
got
that
a
people
different
can
measuring stick.
manipulate data doesn't mean that that data is imaginary.
All the data is
If you say so.
manipulated. All of it, every bit of it. When it comes to the economy, I'm drawing a hard line. I know I'm being a crazy lunatic right now, but the entire economy is. If there are how many people
Jacinto
involved?
said economists measure from the balls.
Economists measure from the balls, and everybody measures from a different place. And that's why I can't trust any of them. That's why it drives me nuts. You're telling me one thing, and this guy's telling me a different thing, and Trump's telling me a third thing. And I don't think any of them are correct. Nobody understands how it works, and anybody who tells you they do have a specific goal in mind. I don't think that you've got a bad goal in mind.
You don't have to know exactly how it works to be able to make predictions. For example, before we knew what gravity is, we still could predict that when an apple fell from a tree, it would land on the ground.
We have to all come together and touch balls so we can have a common base.
Gravity can be measured and is a law of physics. Mm-hmm. Economics isn't.
Yeah.
Economics is a very soft science. Surrounded by it's very soft.
Hold on. Economics is literally just human behavioral theory.
And a political
which is a soft science.
Measuring mid-shaft to
sure,
fear-mongers.
It is, but it's valid and generally can be used as a predictor for human behavior. So
if I thought that there was someone who absolutely didn't have a dog in the fight, I might trust them. But every economist has stocks.
I am scared of
every
mongers.
Economist has bias. Every economist wants to do good and wants their investments to do good. They have a dog in the fight. That makes me doubt their independent, completely biased judgment about who's going to win the fight. Does that make sense?
They're always trying to sell me stuff.
They're always trying to sell Popog stuff. All right. Enough crazy Waldo rambling.
But Daniel Dale is an idiot.
Okay,
just saying.
Great. Trump's claim on the situation before the right to try law. So this, I didn't know what the fuck Trump was talking about. I assume this is a capitalism problem. And I think it isn't. I think he's exaggerating. Former Trump touted the right to try law signed in 2018 in his convention speech on Thursday, which gave terminally ill patients easier access to experimental medications that haven't yet received approval from the Food and Drug Administration. Before the measure was passed, Trump claimed terminally ill patients in the United States would have to go to foreign countries to seek experimental medication or go home to die if they can't afford it. Sounds simple, but it's not. And I got them to agree. Oh, this is Trump saying, sounds simple, but it's not. I got them to agree that somebody that needs it will, instead of going to Asia or Europe or someplace, or if you have no money, going home and dying. This is misleading. This is not true that terminally ill patients would simply go home and die without access to experimental medications or would have to go to foreign countries seeking treatments, blah, blah, blah. Prior to Donald Trump signing the law, patients had to ask the federal government for permission to any experimental medications, but the government almost always said yes.
The
FDA commissioner, the FDA commissioner said 99%.
Vulnerable load up on ivermectin and just die anyway.
I'll get to that in a minute, Shinsato.
It's still a good law.
It's unnecessary. It's not something to brag about. Scott Gottlieb, who served as Trump's FDA commissioner, told Congress in 2017 that the FDA had approved 99% of the patient requests under its own expanded access program before the law. 99%. Emergency requests for individual patients were granted immediately over the phone.
Requested it, right?
Right.
This removes a barrier to entry that existed before and does not exist now because of this law. It's a good law.
Okay. I'm on board with that, but I don't. So they don't even have to ask anymore?
That's correct. Yeah. You used to have to contact the FDA and be like, "Can I please use this experimental thing that could save my life? Otherwise, I'm going to die." And they were like, "Yeah," but now you don't have to go and ask permission to save your own life. Great.
Okay, you don't have to ask the FDA for this permission. All right, that sounds fine to me. I'm not saying this isn't good. I'm sniffing
It
around
may
for the
be
capitalism.
that he's
sniffing around for it.
overstating the impact, maybe. But at the same time, like, we're talking about Trump's 20 lies during his speech. I mean,
Well, they called this one misleading. I mean,
but
if it's
the title of the article says his lies, doesn't he?
it
Lied 20 times, something like that.
Fact check: Trump makes more than 20 false claims.
Yeah.
20 false claims.
Would you call this one an absolutely false claim?
I agree with him. It's misleading. We were already at 99%.
Titles aren't made by the author, though.
It's entirely possible. 99% is where we were at. If he made it to 100%, great. That's fine with me. I don't see any negative things about this law so far, and it seems fine. But suggesting that they were going home and dying because the FDA was ignoring them or that the FDA wasn't helping them is a bit misleading, isn't it? The FDA approved 99%. Emergency ones were done over the phone. Non-emergency requests are generally processed within a few days. This is not people going home to die because they can't get the medicine, because the FDA won't let them. Instead of if you have no money, going home and dying. If you have no money, going home and dying were Donald Trump's words. Those are the incorrect words. That's not correct. If you asked the FDA, 99% of the time they said yes. If it's an emergency, they did it over the phone. And if it's not an emergency, it's generally processed within a few days.
Did people know to ask the FDA?
I don't know.
I can think of a lot of systems where if you didn't know who to contact to ask for something, you didn't get it.
Well, okay, hang on. So the doctor has said, hey, there's this weird experimental thing that I would like to try. The people don't know about that. The doctors know about that. So the doctor says, hey, this is the weird thing. The doctor would know to contact the FDA. The person, nobody's going online, finding out what experimental drug they need and then ordering it via Amazon and then failing to get it and then sitting home dying. This is all involving a doctor and insurance companies and stuff like that. So
if anything, I would just call this a nitpick.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Fine.
I mean,
Trump's claim about Russian warships near Cuba. So former President Donald Trump claimed that in
We
his
don't know
speech
how
on
much
Wednesday.
doctors would pre-filter because they knew the FDA would say no to stage 1 drugs, for example. I have no idea if this is true.
It's a mess, and it's fine. I think it's a fine law. I think he's being over exaggerating the benefit of it, is what I'm suggesting. I don't think he's didn't pass that law or it's a bad law. I'm saying he's over exaggerating the good he did. Russian warships and nuclear submarines are operating 60 miles off our coast of Cuba. The press refuses to write about it. So
I'm gonna pass on this one. He's wrong.
Trump's president tends to claim that Russian warships and nuclear submarines are operating close to the United States is misleading. While Russia did not have a nuclear-powered submarine visiting Cuba in June, along with Russian Navy vessels, all of the vessels, including the submarine, have left since. So they're not operating. A group of 4 Russian Navy vessels arrived in Cuba on June 12th as part of what Pentagon and State Department officials stressed is a routine activity and noted that Cuba has hosted Russian ships every year between 2013 and 2020. Donald Trump was president during those years. A Pentagon spokesperson said that given Russia's long history of Cuban port calls, these are considered routine naval visits, especially in the context of increased U.S. support to Ukraine and NATO exercises. So it's normal and it's routine. So Donald Trump pushing fear about it is nonsense.
I just said I was going to pass on that one.
Okay. Well, you're passing on that one, but I'm not. Donald Trump is trying to scare you.
Trump would never over-exaggerate in a million years. He's the least over-exaggerating president of all time.
It's true, Popog.
All time.
Of all time, for billions of years, he's never exaggerated. So, yeah, this is an exaggeration by Donald Trump to make people afraid. Trump on military equipment left in Afghanistan. And so we left $85 billion worth of military equipment. The $85 billion figure is false. While a significant quantity of military equipment that had been provided to the U.S. and Afghan forces was indeed abandoned to the Taliban upon the U.S. withdrawal, the Defense Department has estimated that this equipment had been worth $1.7 billion, not $85 billion. And a chunk of the roughly $18.6 billion worth of equipment provided to the Afghanistan forces between 2005 and 2021, and some of the equipment left behind was rendered inoperable before the U.S. withdrew. So it was already broken, so we left it behind. Other fact checkers have previously explained the $85 billion is a rounded up figure from 83, because he just rounds up, so it's a nice round number. The total amount of money Congress appropriated during the war to fund supporting the Afghan security forces. A minority of this funding was for equipment. So we paid them $83 billion to prop themselves up, and some of it was for equipment. We didn't leave $85 billion worth of military equipment behind.
I agree with the fact checker on this one.
Okay. Not to get on too big a tangent, but I think Donald Trump didn't end the Afghanistan war, right? He didn't end it because this is how it would go down. And somebody knew that. I think whoever ends the Afghanistan war, it's going to look exactly like it did. If Obama had ended it, it would have looked exactly like this. If Trump had ended it, it would look exactly like it did. But they didn't because they're wieners and they're scared and they don't want the political blowback from this absolute fucking catastrophe. So they kick the can down the road. Obama's a wiener about it too. He was like, he bragged about it. He promised that he was going to end it. Then he saw the logistics. He saw the blowback, and he saw what was going to happen if he ended it, and wimped out and chose not to.
I don't think that's an
Donald
accurate
Trump
characterization.
personally killed every Taliban in Afghanistan before Biden called in his Taliban cronies to take over.
What do you think of Donald Trump's complaints about the Afghanistan withdrawal? Because the Republicans hate Joe Biden for the Afghanistan withdrawal. They did a whole thing about it.
It was a shit show.
It was always going to be a shit show. I'm saying it doesn't matter who is in charge. That shit show is going to be exactly the same shit show, no matter who's in charge.
Well, the whole point was to make it not a shit show.
Impossible.
Which is
Nobody
why when Trump did have a plan for pulling out of there and ended up extending it by a couple of years because it was going to be a shit show. The whole point is eventually to have a smooth enough departure that it's not a shit show. And Biden was just like, let's rip the Band-Aid off. Here we go.
Okay.
I mean,
Donald Trump doesn't put that plan out because he wants. Well, this is true Santa Claus theory. Have you heard about this? Have I described this to you before?
No.
Donald Trump puts out a plan that he wants to be carried out after the election. So we know 2020 election is happening. He knows it's happening. We all know when it's happening. So he puts this Afghanistan plan.
From all the
and
records
says 2021.
I've read, Trump actually set up the shit show through some bad planning. It was always going to be bad, but as with COVID money, Trump set up a lot of dominoes and Biden ripped.
Yeah, and I think so. True Santa Claus theory suggests that when you're about to come up to the election, you put together a plan that carries off into the next election, right? So this is the Afghanistan plan. If Donald Trump wins, he carries out the plan maybe, or he puts it off again until the next election after that. Why would you do that? Same thing with tax cuts that end after they're done being president. They do this on purpose. If it goes well, Donald Trump takes credit. If the plan goes well and everything is great, he looks into the camera and says, "That was my plan. Vote for me." Joe Biden just followed my Donald Trump plan and it was great and everybody loved it. If it goes badly, he gets to blame Donald Trump. I mean, he gets to blame Biden. Oh, it went poorly because you didn't follow my plan. This is your fault. Everything went wrong and it's your fault. Even if he planned out every fucking step, he would still blame Biden for doing it wrong, for doing a bad job. This is what they do with the tax cuts. And if Biden does follow the plan and it goes well, then, I mean, two Santa Clauses. Either heads I win, tails you lose kind of situation.
Sure. I mean, it is what it is.
It was going to be a shit show no matter what. If Trump had done his plan, it would have looked exactly the same. If Obama had done this plan, it would have looked exactly the same. We gave $85 billion and we still can't do it properly. There's no way to do it properly. And that shit. I think, I know you don't like her, but Maytag was complaining about endless wars. But she also complains that Biden ended a war. I'm very confused. I don't think she has any ethics. What I get from lunatics on the right is, hey, we hate endless wars, and we hate that Joe Biden ended one. It sounds insane to me.
It's not the fact of ending a war. It's the manner in which it was handled that they don't like. Which, to be fair, we didn't lose $85 billion in equipment, which is what Trump's claim was. So it was a disaster, and the Taliban, who we spent years fighting, is now in control of Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
But the end of the war did come, which is what we wanted. It's not about the ending of the war. It's about the manner in which it happened.
Okay. I think it could have been a lot worse. I mean,
a lot worse. Could have been a lot better.
Could have been worse. Could have been better. We could have continued doing it. If Biden was a really big wiener, he would have continued it for a few more years until somebody and kicked that can down the road again. I think that's what Trump and Obama both did. I think George Bush set up an entire fucking shit show, and there's no way that you could undo that shit show. Well, moving on. So, okay. Yeah, right.
Let's just go back there and try again in 20 years.
Popog's got the idea. Trump's false claim that the world was...
Isn't that an inevitability?
During the administration. Yeah, we'll have to go back. Trump claimed that many others at the RNC did, that while he was president, the world was at peace. Our opponents inherited a world of peace and turned it into a planet of war. I'm absolutely on the fact checker side. Trump claimed about world peace under his presidency is false.
Civil wars in 3 countries and 4 countries. Okay.
We were still in Afghanistan.
And then they talk about Israeli Palestine and
Syria, Yemen, Somalia, Ethiopia's Tigray region. I don't even know about that one. The Israeli-Palestine conflict was also ongoing. Conflicts with Israel and Hezbollah. I mean, world peace.
And then, all right, so civil wars in 4 countries, and then Israel versus 4 other countries that were not as hot as they are now.
Fighting continued between Ukraine and pro-Russian forces in the Donbass region. That's what I'm saying. Like, the Donbass was still a thing. It wasn't as big as it is today, but it was still happening. They were doing Cold War shit. Russia's been doing Cold War shit in the Donbass for 10 fucking years. Or 10 years before they started the hot war shit. World peace was not correct.
Not correct, but more peaceful than it's been for more peaceful than it's been on the previous presidencies and the one after his, I would say.
Sure, things got worse after he was gone.
They have, and they were worse before he became president too.
No, they were the same. No, I don't. No. A couple of things got worse, but that's not because it doesn't have anything to do with him. It has nothing to do with him. He's looking into the camera and telling the American people, I brought you world peace. And he's a liar. And there was war before I got elected. I got elected. It was all peaceful.
More peaceful,
and then
because
after,
shit hadn't heated up while he was there.
I think he's selling horseshit to the people. I think he's lying to them, suggesting that he caused the world peace. And everything went wrong after he left. I think those things would have gone wrong just the exact same if he had been in charge. But again, it's impossible to prove those things, and it's impossible to not prove those things. You know.
Sure.
This is what I don't like about him, is that I think that he is just slightly disingenuous enough for people to believe it. Our opponents inherited a world at peace.
I think healing his worst downside as his biggest upside. He's a lunatic with his hand on the nuke button, so everybody else has to calm the fuck down.
We'll talk about that in a minute, Popog. I think you're onto something there, Popog. He declares, Donald Trump says, you can't vote for Biden. He'll cause World War III. Vote for me, because if anybody steps out of line, I'll start World War III. I don't think that's a good fucking selling point. That's insane. That's his actual fucking message. That's his actual message. If you reelect Biden, you'll get World War III. If you elect me, anybody steps out of line, I'll fucking start World War III. I don't see the difference between those two, honestly.
I think the characterization is hilarious. I guess
it's the brag that he makes. He talks about that. He brags about that. He's like, yeah, if anybody steps out of line, I'll stomp on them, causing World War III. This wouldn't have happened. Russia wouldn't be stepping out of line. Madness. I don't think. And why would so? Let's follow the logic there. Donald Trump says, if I were president in 2020 and president right now, Russia would not have stepped out of the line. Why would Russia not have stepped out of the line? Why would that happen? Because he would bomb them.
Okay.
Which is what we're doing now.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
We're bombing Russia?
We are giving Ukraine all of our equipment so they can bomb Russia. Thing. Okay, so it would be worse then under Donald Trump. Joe Biden has given our equipment to Ukraine to bomb Russia, but under Trump, he would bomb Russia.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds worse. Sounds worse for American. It sounds worse for world peace. Donald Trump, worse for world peace. Oh,
it's definitely worse for world peace in terms of if Russia invaded Ukraine while Trump was in office, if he indeed would have bombed Russia as a result, like direct conflict with them, then that is worse for world peace. But the threat of that actually happening, if that would have prevented Russia from invading Ukraine, is better for world peace.
Carry a bug stick with crazy bitch bedazzle on it.
So we can't vote for Joe Biden because he's going to cause World War III with his middle of the road.
Damn autocorrect.
Weakness with his
with his middle of the road.
It's not even electing Joe Biden; it's electing all of Joe Biden's handlers at this point.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, it's electing Bernie or not fine. Bernie. Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, fine, great. He's a corpse. I'm not arguing that. We elect the corpse that is the shambling zombie that is Biden, and that will make him give equipment to Ukraine to bomb Russia. But if we elect Trump, Russia will be scared of World War III, so they won't act.
Yeah, they can't handle us, and they know it.
I think that's wishful thinking.
Are you kidding? They can't handle Ukraine.
I know. It's wishful. Okay, no. You're misunderstanding. I'm not saying that the wishful thinking is the Ukraine with our second string equipment. I'm saying it's wishful thinking that they won't act. I think it's wishful thinking that Donald Trump is so scary and nightmarish and everybody's afraid of him that they won't do the thing that they want to do anyway. That's what the wishful thinking part. That Russia would not have invaded. It's wishful thinking when Donald Trump says, if I were in charge, this wouldn't have happened. That's wishful thinking.
So 2 presidents before Trump and the president after Trump, all of them had Russia invading somebody during their presidencies. Like a new invasion.
I apologize for putting that out into the universe.
And then during Trump's presidency, no new invasions happened.
Coincidence.
Okay.
Unintentional side effect. Surprise. They were busy that year. Has nothing to do with him. Wishful thinking that it is because of him is what I'm saying. I've seen no evidence that it is because of him.
And that's fair.
Because they were still doing Cold War shit in the Donbass.
Pattern of events happened. Mm-hmm. If that pattern of events happened while I was president, I would also take credit for that.
Okay.
So
that's fine. Russia was still doing Cold War shit in the Donbass that entire time that Trump was president. And what do I have to point to? I have other incorrect statements that he's made about no balloons. Well, there were. It's just that we didn't report about it and we weren't talking about it. We weren't thinking about it. So he's lying to you when he says no balloons. No Chinese balloons came over. He's a liar. We know for a fact that that's a lie. So I suspect that China was doing that, even though they knew he was in office, right?
How come that didn't make it into this article?
I don't know. I don't think it's down at the bottom, but I don't know why that didn't. Maybe
I bought so many balloons
from
China during the Trump presidency.
I know, so many balloons. Okay, we're moving on to the next one. Trump on Venezuela's crime rate. So in Venezuela, crime is down 72% because foreign governments are sending their country's criminals to the U.S. Trump greatly overestimated the Biden era decline in crime in Venezuela, at least according to the limited statistics that are publicly available. I don't know if I trust any stat coming out of Venezuela. And while it's certain that at least some criminals have joined law-abiding Venezuelans in a mass exodus from the country amid the economic crisis of the last decade, there is no proof Venezuela's government has deliberately emptied prisons for migration purposes or intentionally sent ex-prisoners to the United States. And this is, again, one of those things that he talks about a lot.
Yeah, why the hell would we trust Venezuela?
I don't trust Venezuela's numbers. I don't trust them not to do that, but there's no evidence that they're emptying their prisons the way Donald Trump suggests. They're sending their criminals.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where he's getting his numbers from, or
his handlers made it up. That's what I suspect, anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah. Again, I'm just throwing aspersions.
Tack this one on as a W for the fact checkers.
Source,
yeah.
Trust me, bro.
Trust me, bro. Goth gas. Yeah, you're right. Trump's evidence-free claim on immigration. Former President Donald Trump claimed on Thursday
Venezuela also doesn't even have the power to control their own prisons. The majority of their prisons are run by gangs, and the government literally just drops off food supplies into the prison.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Therium good documentaries on the subject.
Yeah, it's a mess in Venezuela. That's why so many people are running away, because it's a fucking mess. Thursday, he said that immigrants are coming from prisons, they're coming from jails, they're coming from mental institutions and the insane asylums. Terrorists are coming in at numbers we've never seen before. There is no evidence for Trump's claim that jails around the world are being emptied so that prisoners can travel to the U.S. as migrants, nor for his claim that foreign governments are also emptying out mental facilities. And I don't think the terrorist thing is true either. I wonder if this says anything about the terrorists. Two immigration organizations told CNN that the time they had not heard anything that would corroborate Trump's story, as did three experts at organizations favorable.
I believe they can't control their crime in Venezuela, so how can I think their government is competent enough to ship people thousands of miles LMAO?
Good point. CNN's own search did not produce any evidence. The fact-check org also found nothing. So he's just making this up.
Sure.
But right-wing website Breitbart News supposed federal intelligence report warning Border Patrol agents that Venezuela had done this, but that vague and unverified claim about Venezuela's actions has never been corroborated. So he's over-exaggerating. And I don't think the terrorist part is real either. If there are, this is, again, a thing for Republican narratives that don't mesh. One, the border is a horrible nightmare hellscape that every inch of it is owned by some sort of drug cartel.
It depends how we define terrorists.
The terrorists from
every conspiracy
Iran are
requires the government to be so incompetent they can't fix anything, but also so competent they can do anything.
You can't have both of those. Both of those can't be true. I know Donald Trump can't tell the difference between an Iranian and a Mexican, but they can. The Mexican drug cartel that owns every inch of the border can tell the difference between a Mexican and an Iranian. And they would kill the Iranian immediately. The violent, scary, monster drug cartels that do not want the government on the border would not allow a fucking Al-Qaeda person to cross that border. That would bring the military to the border.
If you're allergic to reality, they can be.
You see what I'm going for?
Yep.
So this is a typical Republican narrative that it's super dangerous and the terrorists are coming across. You can't have both. It's one or the other. It's wide open and terrorists are coming across. Okay, great. But it's all you can't have the drug cartels owning the whole damn thing. But again, more fear from Donald Trump. He wants you to be afraid.
I think the cartels may be willing to cross others for the right price, but bringing that level of heat on the cartel doesn't help their business interests in the long term.
Right.
At Pop OG 42 Deep State Lingo.
Let's do, our crime rate is going up while crime statistics all over the world are going down. Our crime rate is up while crime statistics all over the world are going down. Crime rate is down. But, so they're saying this is false because our crime rate is actually down. Would you disagree with that?
At Shinsinto lingo is a deep state term. Welcome to the Illuminati.
I don't think so.
You don't think it's down?
No, I don't think that I disagree with the
fact checker here. Okay.
fact checker. Yeah.
Gotcha. So Trump's claim about a dramatic increase in the crime rate is false. The official data says that it's down, and I think that it's down too. But Donald Trump needs you to be afraid, so he needs to push the idea that it is on the rise. And crime data is always fucking difficult, just like the economy. Somebody will bend the numbers around. Popog disagrees with this fact check. I'm not sure why.
Thank you for following I Can't Buttons. At PopOG42 provides sources
I Can't Buttons just turned a frog
is not
day.
comparable year to year.
Thanks for following.
Thank you for following Goth Gash.
Turning frogs gay up in here.
I'm interested in what Popog has to say about.
Popog, tell us why you think the FBI crime data is not comparable year to year. Again, see, this is that same shit as the economy. If you look at the numbers from this direction, it looks completely different. But if you look at the numbers from that direction, it looks fine. This is just more statistics lying to you. And I'm not saying Popog's lying. I'm saying that he's going to look at the numbers from a different angle, and it's going to give him a different conclusion, which is why you can't trust numbers and statistics. I hate it. I appreciate you guys following.
The FBI says not to compare their numbers year to year.
The FBI says don't compare our numbers year to year because you'll
Trust me bro, I saw a video on YT of people stealing, so that's indicative of a trend. No further thought needed.
Right.
Because they are from different number of the police stations.
Okay, so we don't have a good way to gather data. So everybody's lying when they say that the number is up or down. Everyone's always lying about all the numbers all the time. That falls within my narrative.
I tried looking into crime statistics and it turns out it was just Hunter B's dong. Check out Waldo's videos https://www.youtubecom at Waldo videos.
Shinsinto, in a minute we'll talk about your favorite dong. So yeah, crime data is always difficult.
We should all take a 200-level statistics class to understand sampling and trends.
And even then, they can still lie to you.
The best data is the BJS Crime Victimization Survey.
BJS Crime Victimization Survey. All right, I'm going to write that down.
It was in MTG Google Drive.
BJS Crime Victimization Survey. Popog, does that say crime is up or down? I'm writing it down. I'll Google it later. Most of the people, especially here at CNN.
It's way slower, so it doesn't say shit yet.
Oh, good. It's real numbers, which means it takes 10 fucking years for them to show up. I'm glad that's how we have to make our decisions. You're only allowed to make smart, intelligent decisions 10 years after shit goes down. So CNN is calling this false. I think it's also false. I think from some of the data it suggests that it's going down.
Absence
but
of
data's
data
a liar.
is not proof.
Data's a liar. Trump blames Biden administration for greatest invasion in history. The greatest invasion in history is taking place right here in our country. They're coming from every corner of the earth, not just from South America, but from Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. They're coming at levels we've never seen before. It's an invasion, indeed, and this administration does nothing to stop them. So they're calling this one false because the Biden administration did pass a Republican bill. They tried to get a Republican bill passed.
That's how I drive my car. I record my drives and then watch the video on a 10-year delay and turn the wheel and press the pedals based on that.
Right. So, yeah, the illegal crossings of the U.S. border dropped in June, but it's still very high. I'm not saying the numbers aren't high at the moment. Thomas, what do you think about this one?
Oh, this one's interesting. The encounters with illegal immigrants for almost a decade, actually, were down below 500,000.
Mm-hmm.
So even before Trump, they were down. And then basically as soon as Biden took office,
border crossings are seasonal. Did it drop in June compared to previous years?
They were up above 2 million in 2021. So they're and by the way, 2 million is greater than any year since the earliest I've seen on a graph, which is 1990. So yes, you have a greater number of people coming over, at least according to the metrics, under Biden than under any president in history.
I wouldn't argue with that fact.
Now, the idea that they're doing nothing, that's a question in and of itself. And these guys say that they are limiting asylum seeker crossings and shutting off access to asylum for migrants who cross the border illegally, but I'm not sure what that even means.
Because it's more of that.
And when did they do that, by the way? Last month, the Biden administration did this. It says it in that last paragraph. Last month. What have they been doing for the last 4 fucking years?
Probably
or 3 years. Excuse
probably
me.
Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
So
the fact checker is saying, oh, last month they did this because it's a political vulnerability, and they know it is because it is one. Because they have done nothing for the last 3 years.
They did nothing for 3 years, and then they did something a couple of months ago.
Because they knew it was going to fuck them in the election.
Right. Which I still think is a dumb idea. You turn it on its head. These people coming here are good. Give them a path to citizenship. Make them Americans. The problem will go away. Charge them a fee for coming in incorrectly. It's fine. I don't even mind that. Don't give them a tax refund.
So on this one, I'm calling the fact checker a fucking liar.
The fact checker is being misleading. I think you're right. They did nothing for 3 years, and then they did a little bit right there at the end because they wanted to look good for the normies in the middle who haven't yet realized that immigration is good, and we should all be high-fiving each other and saying, yeah, come on in. Here's the steps you need to follow to become an American. But so you and I are both disagreeing with this fact checker, but from different directions. I think Biden's a wiener. Again, Dems are wieners. They know what they want. They just can't tell the normies that. The Dems like not illegal. They like immigration, and they want these people to show up, and they want a path to citizenship, but they're not allowed to say that because the normies in the middle get scared of it. Because the right hates the idea of more people coming into the country, and the normies get scared by that idea if the right tells them. So you need a left wing that's properly explaining it to them. Hey, these guys are good for our economy. They're helpful. More Americans is a good thing. If you've got economic issues with them, which you should, I understand there are economic worries about a ton of immigrants. It's a capitalism problem. If they can't get a house, it's not because the government is stopping them from getting a house. It's the companies that own the houses that refuse to build more.
Sure. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, with this one, the fact checker's a bitch. Holmes Librand, you're a bitch.
I think you're right. And they're being a wiener in the way that Dems usually are. Is that they throw out one little thing that doesn't really do anything. And even then, it's a Republican bill. That bill that they're talking about, that last month, that's just a Republican bill, not a Democrat one. So Biden cobbled together some Republican talking points, turned it into a bill that then Donald Trump told Republicans not to vote for. And then it got shot down, and then he did it through executive action anyway. This is bad politics. I think all of our politics about immigration are wrong and bad, and both sides suck for different reasons. Trump makes claim that grocery prices rising under Biden. Groceries are up 57%. The Trump claims that grocery prices are up 57% are false and could use some context. Again, this is the imaginary economy that doesn't exist and no one can measure. They're going back to inflation at 9%. Food prices at grocery stores did outpace overall inflation. Still, grocery prices didn't rise to the extent Trump claims. Annual food and grocery inflation peaked at 11%, at 13, up 21. Again, yeah, it just depends on who's looking at the numbers and when. 57 is not the number that these guys came up with. But again, they probably have a different measuring stick, right?
Probably. I mean, over the course of 3 years, so if you take an original price of, let's say, $10, and you increase it by 11% to $11.10, and then you again increase it by 13.5%. That $11.10 increased by 13.5% brings you to like 12, what, 50, 60 something? And then if you do it again for a third year, you're looking at what, $14-ish, which would be 40% higher than the original number. And that's for 3 years worth of inflation. So I actually don't know if the number is up 21% from when Biden took office, and are they like, how are they calculating this? But
Exactly.
Their numbers themselves don't actually match up, because if you take 11.4% inflation and 13.5% inflation over 2 years, and then you have a third year, it's not going to be just 21%.
Okay. Different measuring sticks. Just like when we were talking about the economy, because this is a big part of the economy. Trump will get economists who use a certain measuring stick that push their agenda. And then this CNN guy is going to get economists, and they have a different measuring stick. They measure from a different part of the balls that gets them a different answer, because that's part of their agenda. Everyone telling you a percentage within the economy is pushing an agenda. Everyone. So move on to Trump's misleading claim about energy independence. This is, Donald Trump said that we were energy independent. They've been saying this for years. This is misleading. Energy independent is a political phrase, not a literal phrase. It can be defined in various ways, and under Biden, the U.S. has continued to satisfy the same definitions it satisfied under Trump. U.S. production of oil and gas have set records under Biden. Energy independent doesn't mean the U.S. uses no foreign energy or that it's untethered from the global energy markets. This wasn't the case under Trump, and it still isn't under Biden. So what do you think? I know you have a lot to say about the energy market, Thomas.
So the fact checker is right that energy independence is a silly term.
I agree.
Because regardless of whether or not, so the idea of energy independence in the first place is that we produce enough energy to run ourselves if we wanted to, right? Where we wouldn't have to import energy from elsewhere in order to maintain our country. And that's literally just a metric of like, how much energy does our country consume versus how much do we produce, and are we above that? And yes, the United States has been above that for a while now. But we do export a great deal of the energy products that we produce, and we also import a great deal of energy products. And that's a result of global trade. Yeah, I mean, energy independence, did we exceed the level of energy production than energy consumption under Trump? Yes, we did. And have we continued to do so under Biden? Yes. So, yeah, I agree with the fact checker. And I agree with the experts in energy policy that say that it's a stupid term.
Okay, great. I think it's just a buzzword. Short, pithy, wrong. That is what Donald Trump needs. That's what he likes. That's what his voters love. Short, pithy, wrong. Energy independence. Bam. Short, it's pithy, it's wrong. Drill, baby, drill. It's short, it's pithy, it's wrong. And that is, they fit on bumper stickers. They're easy to say. They're easy to chant. They're easy to spout while you're gish galloping and saying 1,000 other things. And I think that's why he keeps saying it. Drain the swamp. Short, pithy, wrong. Trump's false claims on his tax cuts. Again, his tax cuts. We got a credit for the war and defeating ISIS and so many things. The great economy, the biggest tax cuts ever, the biggest regulation cuts ever, the creation of Space Force, the rebuilding of our military. We did so much. I think there's a lot of lies in that sentence. Was it the greatest economy ever, Thomas, while he was there?
I don't know. That's hard to quantify.
Exactly. It's hard to quantify.
Not.
It's short, it's pithy, and probably wrong. Biggest regulation cuts. I actually do believe that. I'm willing to bet he did cut more regulations than anybody else.
I'd be willing to bet the same thing. Yeah.
But I think that's a dumbass idea.
I don't think it is.
I think the only thing that can prevent runaway capitalism is regulation. The creation of the Space Force, which I didn't think it uncreated. Do they even still exist?
They do. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure. I thought they got unfunded or unused or something like that. The rebuilding of our military. They say it a lot. I think it's short, it's pithy, and it's wrong. The military wasn't unfunded and falling apart in 2015. And then he made it better. It's the same as it's always been. Still gets billions and billions and billions of dollars, and it's been exactly the same. The recruiting numbers are different, and we can discuss that why, but it's not like they didn't have bullets and ammunition and stuff like that, like the way he says it is. I think he's exaggerating. Short, pithy, wrong.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know what rebuilding of our military even means. As far as I'm aware, every branch of the military is struggling with recruiting right now, in fact.
Yes.
And a recent bill supposedly is going to increase lower enlisted wages by something like 20%.
It's going to increase, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like the military in terms of its pay scale, like if you start everybody out, let's say at like the lowest person gets $10 per month, and then the next person gets 20, and after that gets 30, and everybody over the scale gets an extra $10 over the last one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you do, let's say, a 5% increase in wages for each of these in a given year, right? Well, that 5% for the guy only making $10 is now $10.50. Or no, $10.50. But for the guy making $20, he's now making $21, right? And the guy making $100, well, he's now making $105.
Mm-hmm.
And as you compound those percentage increases year over year, which is what the government has done, eventually the guy that was originally making $10 is only making $15, while the guy that was making $100 is now making like $250.
Okay.
Right? Because the percentage increases, they scale, right?
Sure.
And so the lower enlisted now are receiving a 20% pay raise with this next bill that's supposed to go into effect on the 1st.
Okay.
Which is supposed to bring them more in line with the relative increase that we've seen at the top of the scale.
Okay.
Which is really nice, and I would say is probably going to do more for recruiting than a lot of other things.
Paying them. Brilliant.
Yes, yeah. Imagine
I
that
love
you increase wages and suddenly people want to work for you.
Yeah, interesting. I love this.
What a
idea.
thought!
Great idea. All right. So yeah, I've never understood what rebuilt our military in, and so
yeah, I don't know either.
I think it's short, pithy, wrong. I think that's what he does mostly all the time. Then okay, let's move on to the next one. Trump's false claim U.S. had no inflation during his presidency. He did say this: "We had no inflation." Thomas, did they have no inflation?
It was like 2 or 3%.
It could be low, but it wasn't nothing.
Per year.
I think he used the word destroy inflation. We destroyed inflation. Did they destroy inflation? I don't think so. It might have been the speaker right before him or something like that said Donald Trump destroyed inflation. That sounds like they don't know what inflation is. I claim to barely know anything about the economy, but inflation is not something that you can just cancel. It doesn't just work that way.
I get that. Well, actually, you can, because if you reduce the money supply, or if you go into a recession, then you actually have deflation. Right,
but that's just negative inflation. I mean, that's still the thing that exists. It exists.
It's the opposite, though.
Okay.
Now, inflation was very low under Trump. And in fact, this article says 8% during Trump's entire 4 years was the inflation, which it used to be that the Federal Reserve. So the inflation is generally managed by the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve will set rates for its interest in terms of rates increase when inflation is high because they want to bring inflation down, and rates decrease when inflation is low or when the economy is struggling, when jobs are struggling, because they want to make the availability of money more cheap. And 8% over 4 years is basically like a 1.5% per year inflation rate, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Okay.
And by the way, the Fed's target for inflation used to be 2%. Now it's 3% because it's been so out of control for the last few years.
Okay.
But 2% inflation is like the ideal.
Okay, great. We had no inflation is
and
short pithy.
We had no inflation is short for it. Well, it's shorthand for our inflation was absolutely on target and was the correct amount. Right now, we're experiencing inflation that's well above what anyone would expect. It's pricing people out of basic necessities. It's crazy.
Okay.
Whereas what Trump is saying here, and it is an exaggeration to say no inflation. Inflation was on target during those 4 years.
And if he had said that, they wouldn't have called it false. If he said inflation's on target.
I'm going to call this one a nitpick.
I'm suggesting it's short, pithy, wrong. He doesn't care that it is incorrect. Does Trump comprehend what inflation is? I don't think he does.
It's not
he comprehends prices.
Hold on a second. It's not a matter of what Trump comprehends as whether it's correct or not. It's what the voters comprehend.
Right.
And
they can't comprehend that complicated thing that you just said.
If the price of your eggs for a dozen eggs went from $1 to $1.08, let's say, during Trump's presidency, you're probably not going to notice it, right? You'd say there's no inflation. If the price of a dozen eggs goes from $1 to $1.80 under Biden, you're looking at a much bigger difference. This is like at some point there's a threshold to which people will notice it, and no inflation is just like, look, under me, nobody noticed that your eggs went from $1 to $1.08.
Right.
Right.
The actual explanation, the long-term,
but he's giving a political speech. I mean,
yeah. So he needs it to be short. He needs it to be pithy, and he doesn't care if it's wrong. We had no inflation.
It's not even necessarily. I mean, it's wrong technically, but on the face of it, how much inflation do we really have? Not very much at all.
I agree
especially
with you. I agree with
comparatively.
But that's not what he's saying. That because he is a salesman. He is a car salesman. That's what he's doing. He's selling a car to the American people, and he's doing it slightly dishonestly. That's part of the reason I don't like him that much. I think our world has complicated, difficult issues, and it cannot be solved by short, pithy, wrong.
Show me on the doll where inflation touched you. Is there a wallet on the doll anywhere?
That might be right there in
the back pocket.
Yeah, right in the back pocket. Drill, baby, drill. Short, pithy, wrong. That's what I'm going to say. So again, by doing drill, baby, drill, We will lead to large-scale decline in prices. Is he correct here?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not going to argue that. I don't think that is incorrect. I think that if you drill up more oil, it will lower prices. I can agree with that.
Yeah, I don't even know where the fact checker is coming from on this one. It's straight up just true that if you produce more of a good, the value of that good goes down.
Right, and I think that's correct. The fact checker has a different yardstick again, because this is economics again. Economics. Anytime you deal with economics, everybody has their own yardstick, and they all fucking disagree with each other. Maybe that's the way I should be phrasing this complaint about economics. Ella Nielsen has a different yardstick than Donald Trump, and a different yardstick than you, and a different yardstick from me. I'm the only one with no yardstick.
And we've had the conversation about oil production before,
mm-hmm.
and the fact checker is making the same argument essentially that I've made before, where it's the president doesn't have direct control over how much we drill, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we do have direct control over what is our stance towards energy. What do we do in terms of approving new rigs and whatnot? If you don't approve new rigs for 2 years, which that's what Biden did, you are going to see a slower growth in oil production.
Okay. Because
new rigs produce oil at a much greater rate than older rigs. There's diminishing returns from them. So the fact that Biden spent 2 years not approving drilling, new drilling on federal lands, definitely impaired our ability to increase our production. The fact that we're at the highest production today than we have been ever is actually kind of funny, because we could be even higher than we currently are.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of the Biden administration's refusal for multiple years to allow new drilling on federal lands that caused problems for our drilling. And yes, if we were I think we're at 12 million barrels per day right now.
Mm-hmm.
If we were at 15 or 16, the entire global oil market would be at an oversupply, which would put our barrel or our price per barrel down in like the $30 and $40 a barrel versus the 80 something we're seeing now.
Okay. I'm not arguing with any of that, but that's incredibly complicated. It is incredibly difficult to comprehend. It is difficult to stand on a podium and discuss that with a crowd of cheering people. So he says something short and pithy, and maybe correct.
Well, I mean, it's actually still just correct. You can lower gas prices. Okay. Yeah, I mean, pithy, correct. Now, if you excuse me, I do have to use the bathroom for a moment.
We're done with this part anyway, so I'll wrap it up. That was all of the fact checking that CNN did on Donald Trump's speech. So everything lower on that article is Mike Pompeo and shit like that. We don't need to listen to him. He's not running for president.
Hooray! What was the final score?
I didn't keep score. Donald Trump's a liar. I am biased and knew that ahead of time, so I don't know if Thomas kept score. When he gets back from the bathroom, I'll ask him if he kept score. I've turned the Lady Canooch back on, so meme it up for a few minutes. If you're watching, press the like button, press the subscribe button. Got a couple of new followers today. Super cool. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. You're a big part of this little stream. So I've got a couple more stories to talk about today, and then that'll be it for today. So if you want to hop into the Discord, you can do so right here.
Discord. https discord gg beignet tridix 8.
You can go there and suggest stories to talk about. You can put links in there. Then I will bring those links up on screen, and we'll talk about them. We'll feel them. If you think something's important, go there. Tell us what to talk about. Tell us what you think about, stuff like that. Or you can just go there and argue with Popog. You can, in fact, go to that Discord right now and argue with all of these people. I wouldn't suggest it. They're actually pretty good at arguing. You're just stepping into the lion's den, is what I'm saying. But you can try. Go ahead. And then if you'd like to watch old videos.
YouTube. Loud noises. https://www.youtubecom@waldovideos.
That's got all of the old streams on it. On the live tab, live tab, all of these get uploaded live to YouTube. Anything interesting or good, I pare down and turn into individual videos, and then I publish those as individual topics. So if you want to see what we talked about on a certain specific topic, go there and take a look at the YouTube. Give me a thumbs up and a like and a subscribe and all the buttons. Press the buttons, whichever one. Leave some comments. You could be one of the 1% that leaves a nice comment.
I thought I was good at arguing, and then I realized I was in the wrong room.
I can't buttons. Thanks for hopping into Twitch chat. Yeah, I saw you on YouTube chat. I cannot, for the life of me, get the robot to read YouTube chat out loud. I can't do it. I've tried, and it messes everything up. So I'm just keeping it to Twitch chat and Kick chat. Kick chat exists as well. I don't think there's anybody in Kick chat today.
I'm back.
So yeah, I have Kick chat as well, but
Kick chat, where you at?
There's nobody in there. I think only KBP watches on Kick, and robots that want to sell me things come into Kick chat pretty often. But it's just one button, so I can stream.
Is this
to there
a
as well.
new person? I can't buttons.
Yeah, it's a new person who's just hopped into the chat for the first time. So super cool. Just followed for the first time as well. So let's see. That was the end. I don't know if you caught it before you head off. That was the end of the CNN document about Donald Trump. Popog wants to know if you kept a score the whole time.
I think we reviewed 17 of these.
I think it was all 20
15 of these.
We
didn't quite
fly
get through all
through
the way.
the first thing. I'll give you my score. You can give us your score as well. So what we got was inflation. You were saying that was false or misleading? You were saying that one was false, right?
Well, I'm saying this
that was
one
misleading. You were saying
was
that was misleading.
the fact checker was misleading.
Okay.
On this one.
So let's go with Donald Trump then. So Trump's the important person, not the fact checker here. So Trump was correct, wrong, misleading?
It's unknowable. Is my argument, because the basket of goods is different from 1920 versus today.
Okay, great. I'm going to say that he was pushing fear. Misleading claim about North Korean missile launches. Was Donald Trump correct about this one, or was he?
Then we agree this one was nitpicking.
We agreed it was nitpicking, and Donald Trump is doing it to push
I'll give a
fear.
half point for that one.
So fear is what he was pushing there. Trump on his claims on defeating ISIS in the first couple of months. So
I think the fact checker was wrong on this one.
Fact checker's wrong on that one. Okay, great. I'm
at a half point out of 3.
This is patting himself on the back and not pushing.
And I'll give another half point for this one.
Half point for that one. Okay.
1 out of 4.
So patting himself on the back.
This one he was wrong. It's 2 out of 5.
Medicare, Social Security. So he's pushing fear. Trump on trade deals with China.
I'll give a half point for this one. 2.5 out of 6.
Okay.
Gas prices. I think this one's. I'm not on the fact checker side for this one. That's 2.5 out of 7.
Fear. Trump claims government hired 88,000 IRS agents.
I'll do 3.5 out of 8.
Okay. Fear. Trump on Biden increasing American taxes by 4 times.
The fact checker didn't use the same statistic that Trump was using, so didn't provide any rebuttal, so it's 3.5 out of 9. Okay.
Fear. Trump claimed on the situation before the right to try law.
I'm gonna go with 3.5 out of 10.
That's fine. Trump's claims that Russian warships near Cuba.
4.5 out of 11.
Okay. Fear. Trump on military equipment left in Afghanistan.
5.5 out of 12.
Okay. I don't see a whole lot of fear in that one. Just complaining about Biden. Trump's false claim that the world was at peace during his administration.
I'm willing to give a half point for this one. Okay. So 6 out of 13.
Fear. Trump on Venezuela's crime rate.
7 out of 14.
7 out of 14. Okay. Fear. Be afraid of the Venezuelan crime. People coming across the border. Evidence-free claim on immigration.
Oh boy. 8 out of 15.
8 out of 15. Yeah. Okay. I'm suggesting he's just pushing fear on immigrants. Be afraid of the immigrants. U.S. crime statistics, where crime is actually going down, but he says it's going up.
Yeah, 9 out of 16.
9 out of 16. Fear, for sure. Be afraid of crime. Blames Biden administration for greatest invasion in history.
9 out of 17.
9 out of 17. That's so you think that there is an invasion?
This one was specifically contesting the idea that the administration is doing nothing, and the fact that the Biden administration did one thing last month that they should have done 3 years ago. I'm not giving them a single point for that. No.
Is it an invasion?
I mean, are the people from another country crossing our border and encroaching upon our territory? Yes. I mean,
but they're not doing so because they want to
take
over. An invasion.
The fact checker here was not contesting.
I know.
No.
He's
the fact checker here was not contesting the word invasion.
Okay, great.
Right?
He should have.
If he had talking balls, about illegal immigration.
Have. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
But it's 9 out of 17. Sorry.
9 out of 17. That's fine. Fear. Be afraid of the immigrants. Trump makes claims about grocery prices under Biden.
9 out of 18.
9 out of 18. Fear. Be afraid that the eggs are going to cost more. Trump's misleading claim about energy independence. Say political.
I think it is a stupid term, so I'll give this one 10 out of 19.
10 out of 19. Okay. And then Trump's false claims on his tax cuts. We got 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was not the largest in history, either in a percentage of gross domestic product or inflation adjusted dollars.
Did we cover this one?
We might have skipped over it.
Why did you give a point for the grocery price one, Thomas?
Did I? Where's the
10. I think we did energy independence. Then I was looking at this one when you said you had to go, and I thought we were done. And then we might have skipped over that one accidentally. False claims on his tax cuts. We got credit for the war. We defeated ISIS. So many things. Great economy. The biggest tax cuts ever. The biggest regulation cuts ever. Because I said.
Wait, did I give a point for the grocery prices one? I don't give a point for that one.
Okay.
We're at like a half. A half of the ones we've seen so far are valid, and the other half are not.
Okay.
No inflation. I'm not giving any points on that one.
You said 818 and then 919. It should be 819.
8 and okay.
Yeah, you're right.
8 of 19 is where we're at. No inflation.
I'm not giving anything for no inflation. I'm not giving anything for oil, drilling, and gas prices. And then we didn't talk about Pompeo or
well, we're not going to talk about
Pompeo.
Like that, no. We're going to stop at the 20. So you're thinking that half of these actually are lies.
Over half of this fact check is shitty. It's a piece of shit.
Did Donald Trump lie 10 times? That's what I'm trying to get to. I don't care if I do care if he's lying, but what has he done with this speech? Fear, 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 fear. Be afraid of the immigrants. Be afraid of the people that aren't from our country. Be afraid that Joe Biden's going to raise your prices. Be afraid of all the gas prices going up. Be afraid of Russia. Be afraid of all the other parts of the country.
I don't care if he's lying. I just assume it by default.
What did you think of this speech, Thomas?
I actually thought it was fun. I mean, I know when I watch him when it's like that's a little vague or that's not quite correct, but I'm not going to sit here and just call him I'm not going to call those things lies though, right? Like if he's vague about something, but it could be accurate. Like there's a point at which when you're giving a political speech where if you get too technical, you're going to lose your audience. Right. And he knows that. And the technicalities don't make the speech any better. Like when you can say I had no inflation, but the actual reality is inflation was exactly on target for all 4 years of your presidency. That which one is the one that's going to play well in a speech, right? Nobody cares. Right. nobody even knows that we have a target for inflation in the first place of like 2%, which is what it used to be, is 2% for any given year, right? But saying inflation on target is not as effective as saying we didn't have any inflation. And
Okay.
the
Does that
fact
make it
is that
wrong?
not for a speech, no.
Not for a speech. So there are determinations on whether or not you're correct or not. Interesting. So,
well, yeah, you always speak to your audience. So like,
and if you tell them what they want to hear, you're not wrong.
not really. So,
I don't know.
for example, if I were to try to teach, electrical theory, for example,
Mm-hmm.
I could teach that voltage is a difference in potential energies between 2 points,
Sure.
right?
That would be technically correct.
Which would make electrons move according to whether you had a positive or negative voltage applied somewhere,
Sure.
right? And electrons move from negative to positive. So if you apply a positive voltage to a circuit, well, the electrons want to move towards that positive. It's sort of like how a vacuum works, right?
Okay.
So
great.
once you start talking about vacuums, now you're talking about something different, right? You talk about a vacuum and say
Analogies.
the
making
the
an
suction is making something move up the tube into the vacuum, right? Well, you've lost something in terms of what you're describing there, right? Some amount of the technicalities have been lost, right?
I accept the idea of analogies, making things easier to understand.
So when you want things to be easy to understand, sometimes you make them simpler.
Short.
And that's just how it goes. And
pithy.
there are a lot of stupid people that are allowed to vote. And you know what? You got to make things understandable for them.
You got to make the short pithy wrong. You got to do it. And that's what he's done there with that. Without no inflation. There was no inflation. He has made it short. He's made it easy for them to understand. He has abandoned all the nuance. He has abandoned all the complicated economic things that you and I talked about.
Yes, because all those things are boring.
Right. Boring. And those people are going to vote based on the short, pithy, wrong feeling that he gave them.
Understandable and wrong is sort of...
you even said it was 1% inflation every year. That was the number you came to. 1%
inflation. 1.5%, yeah.
1.5% inflation every year. So it's not none. So he's wrong.
It's not none, doing so but at the same time,
people feel good. That's what I'm talking about. That's the thing that I'm telling you. Yes, Democrats are whiny, spineless, and stupid and annoying, but they don't do that quite as often.
Popog states it exactly the way that I couldn't.
The information he gave them was wrong, but the feeling he gave them was correct? No.
Yes.
No, the feeling he gave them was good, not correct.
It's exactly what I was trying to tell you is when you have 1.5% inflation for 4 years and your eggs go from $1 to $1.08, that's a big difference in terms of how you feel about it compared to when your $1 eggs go to $1.80 eggs. That's completely different, and it's a big difference in how you feel. And the information that your dollar eggs are still $1, it may be incorrect, but the fact is that $1.08 is a big difference from $1.80.
Right, but it's still a different. 108 is not 1. So it's short.
I understand that.
Pithy,
so
it's wrong.
Not technically correct, but
it's not technically correct. Right. That's what I'm saying.
But as someone who does know the difference, $1.08 is not a big difference from $1, but $1.80 is
a larger difference. Sure, I agree with that.
And Popog states it correctly again.
Same feelings that someone who could understand the correct information would get. So he's making them feel good because all politics are based on feelings. I've always said this. And that's what matters. That's what the Democrats don't comprehend. That's what they don't get, is that making people feel good is what makes them want to vote for you. That is what Donald Trump did with this speech. He made people feel afraid. He made them feel
the information
worried.
was close enough to correct while also being understandable, is what I would say.
And he made them feel. The people, the fear was the most overriding feeling he was giving there. Fear that it will become $1.80 instead of $1.08. Fear that the immigrants are going to come and take your job. Fear that the economy is going to go wrong. Fear that the world is not going to be at peace. Fear of world wars. He's pushing feelings. He always has. I think a very prominent conservative once said, "Facts don't care about your feelings." But you, Thomas, are telling me that the feelings are more important. And it's okay if you fudge the facts a little bit, as long as you get that feeling across.
That's not what I'm telling you, though.
It sounds like you just said to me.
Not quite.
It sounds like you said the feeling of $1 and $1.08 isn't a huge difference in that feeling that they have.
Well, you're conflating two different positions. So number one is, yes, facts are facts regardless of your feelings.
And Donald Trump didn't use any. So is that a fact?
Are
he
they?
had
Hold on.
No inflation. No inflation. That's not a factual statement.
It's not a factual statement, no. But facts may not care about your feelings, which I will agree with that sentiment, that facts are facts regardless of how you feel about them. Okay, is that true?
I'm agreeing so far.
Okay. In a speech, yes, the point is to give people the correct feelings so that they vote for you.
Okay.
So
they don't use facts. Donald Trump didn't use facts in that speech. He used feelings.
No, he didn't use facts like in terms of incredibly accurate statements. The point is to make sure that people have the correct understanding of the situation, which a lot of people are just too stupid and they're allowed to vote. And guess what? If you make sure that they understand what it is you're trying to get across, then they will vote correctly in that case.
If you make them feel good. Donald Trump wants those people to vote for him. And he's going to get those votes by saying things that are not true. He has made them feel good. And they will now vote for him. But even under your description and mine, he is not saying things that are true. Feelings are far more important than facts. They always have been.
When giving a campaign speech, they are, yeah.
Okay, great. What do the facts matter if he gets elected? He gets more attention. He gets more attention.
The facts matter for
votes.
People that are more interested in the granular truth of things. So when you and I argue, then yes, the facts do matter. But when you give a political speech, no, the facts if you can make people feel the right way, then sure.
Okay, but make them feel good.
I'm going to tell you,
bother pushing any facts. The Republicans are not a factual group of people.
No, well, hold on a second.
They never have.
No, fact checking the more vague or slightly incorrect things that a political candidate says is worthless. I mean,
because they already have the feeling, right? Short, pithy, wrong. Trump's, ironically, so short, pithy, wrong is great. Everybody loves that. Nobody likes the long, complicated fact checking afterward. That's for nerds. I agree. I think you're right. Politics is all based on feelings, and this is what the point that I've been trying to get to. This is the point that I've been trying to make with this entire stream. All politics are based on feelings.
I mean, that's fine, but what is your argument then?
You're agreeing with me. That's what I'm getting to. I've judo flipped you over to agreeing with me.
What?
That all politics are based on feelings.
Political speeches are based on feelings, but all politics is not supposed to be based on feelings. No.
Oh, we're one step closer.
And
to
if you would like for all politics to be based on facts, then you know what? We should probably have some restrictions on who gets to vote.
No. I'm not saying it is or it should be. It's never been that way. I've never thought that it was. It's never been. Politics has never been based on facts. Anybody who's telling you it is trying to sell you on their facts that they came up with because that benefits them.
I don't agree. Because You
You
should be
do,
using
because of that
facts.
argument
Hold
that
on.
that argument you just gave me for the past half hour about how it
political
doesn't
speeches?
matter. The facts don't matter, and it's all about the feelings.
The facts
backing
don't
up my
matter when
central
you're
premise.
talking about who votes for you. But once you're in office, you're supposed to use facts to inform your decisions. No, they're like, what the fuck are we talking
The
about?
decisions you make are not politics, man. Politics is getting the people to vote for you, giving them feelings, making them come to your agreement. Saying there was no inflation under me is not factual. It is a feeling, and it makes the people feel good and then vote for him. That's politics.
What?
That's politics. What is politics if not getting people to agree with you and then voting for you? That's politics.
So once you've been voted for and you pass a bill, the bill itself that you had to get passed, that's not politics. It's not politics to introduce legislation and for that legislation to be voted on and then to, sign off on it as the president or veto it as president. That's not
all
politics.
Yes, of course it is. Because you have to make the
that should
senators
all be
feel good.
Factually based.
No, it does. No, it's not going to be factually based. It's going to be based on which senators you can convince to support it. You need 51 of them if you're playing by the old rules. If you're playing by the new rules, you need 60 of them. And how do you make those 60 senators feel
You got that
good?
backwards.
No, the old rules is 51. New rules is 60.
Old rules is 60. New rules is 51.
Okay. The filibuster's gone? Did I miss that headline?
Yeah, the Democrats did that.
They didn't get rid of the filibuster.
They did too.
Okay. It's news to me. Breaking news. Democrats got rid of the filibuster, apparently. Yeah, you have to get all those people to feel good about it. You can write facts on the sheet. I'm not saying you don't make decisions with facts in mind. Why did you need to make that decision? You had to have some sort of motivation, right? And what is that motivation? If not, this is good for us. This is good for me. This is good for our side. This is good for the people that I appreciate.
You're getting to the point where it's reductivist to the point of being useless again.
That motivation is a feeling. That motivation is an emotion. That motivation is based on feelings. No one does anything without being motivated, and that motivation is the feeling. So it's based on feelings. That's what I'm getting to.
Yeah, you're getting to the reductivist to the point of uselessness again.
How is that reductivist? Knowing what Dick Cheney's fucking motivation is would give you a huge leg up on discussing and arguing with him, wouldn't it? Knowing what Donald Trump's motivation is can tell you which direction he's going to go. Knowing J.D. Vance's motivation for pushing a bill or not pushing a bill is important.
That's not what we were talking about just now, though.
That's what I'm saying is, what motivation matters. And motivation happens first. Motivation happens before data collection. Motivation happens before writing a bill. Motivation happens before voting on a bill.
Sure.
And because of that, that's why I keep saying all politics are based on feelings. Okay, we're changing the subject. Thanks for coming, everybody who's here. We're going to talk about Trump's classified documents case, dismissed by Judge Eileen Cannon. Not a surprise here. She's been pushing to get this thing thrown out for a while. His charges were mishandling documents. We know about that. Eileen Cannon, 93-page ruling that special counsel Jack Smith was improperly appointed is a triumph for Trump, even if it is eventually reversed. Smith's office vowed to appeal the ruling, saying that the judge's legal reasoning was at odds with past decisions on the issue. So, what do you think about this?
This is one where it's like, dude, even if this ends up getting overturned, it's been a whole week of just stacking W's for Trump. A whole week. He survives an assassination attempt.
Mm-hmm.
Freaking the RNC comes around. He takes J.D. Vance as his vice president. And then lawsuits are getting dismissed against him.
Yeah,
I thought it was Jover last week, it's certainly Jover this week.
Okay. This one might get reinstated, And Judge Eileen Cannon, bought and paid for by fucking Donald Trump. She really is. She is not to be trusted. She is an absolute activist, bending the rules, changing the law to benefit Donald Trump. That's exactly what I see here. This makes that special counsel, Jack Smith, improperly appointed. But that would make all special counsels improperly appointed, including the ones that
that. Hold on. Are you suggesting that judges can be biased politically, and
of course they can.
Will make rulings on that determination?
Of course they can, and of course they do.
So during Trump's first term, when the same Hawaiian judge ruled against like so many actions that Trump tried to bring, would you say that he was politically motivated as well?
Of course he was. Judges are politicians.
Fair enough.
Yes. And they do things based on their bias. Now, if we're lucky and we hold them to account, we can control and write the laws in a good way so that they will not be able to enforce their bias, because that would be against the written letter of the law. But that's really difficult because the law has special words and special inferences and special definitions for certain words that make it confusing and difficult. There's still a Supreme Court right now arguing about the fucking Constitution. There are Supreme Court justices who say the Constitution means this, and there are Supreme Court justices who say the Constitution means something else. Right? You and I disagree on what the Constitution means and says. This will always be a political situation based on feelings. That Hawaiian judge felt like Donald Trump is doing bad things, and so he had that bias, and so he tried to measure the law.
I believe it's the Ninth Circuit of Appeals have like a 90-something% overturn rate in terms of their rulings,
because they're doing things in a biased way, or the people who or they're making decisions in a certain direction or a biased way, and then someone else is overturning it because they have a different bias.
Or because they're just wrong.
Or because they're just wrong? Why are they reading the law and coming to the wrong answer? Because they're bad? They're stupid? Or because they have a specific bias? I think it's because they have a specific bias.
They're not supposed to, though.
It's impossible. Saying they're not supposed to is wishful thinking. Again.
U.S. versus Nixon. Interesting.
Yeah. That had a special counsel. Guess what? If that special counsel, if Jack Smith, special counsel, is illegal, then backward facing are all special counsels illegal? Because Nixon had a special counsel. There was a special counsel investigating Bill Clinton. There was a special counsel, Bob Barr, who, when he worked for Donald Trump, appointed a bunch of special counsels. Hunter Biden, evidence that helped convict Hunter Biden came from a special counsel. Hunter Biden is now, his lawyers are now pushing for the idea that because all special counsels are illegal, according to Eileen Cannon, they can't use.
I'm not sure that's what the 93-page thing said, but I haven't read it, so can't say for sure. And I also don't necessarily believe the characterization that is presented by Hunter Biden's team. Also, Hunter Biden is a bitch. Fuck Hunter Biden. I don't care about him.
Great.
And also, whatever.
You can say whatever you want about him. I don't care. He's a criminal. He's done some crimes. But if all special counsels are illegal, then his case has to be overturned. And why?
I don't think that's what the opinion said.
Because
I don't believe it. That doesn't sound.
You know what would not surprise me is if this stuff gets up to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court says that anything against Trump is illegal and anything against Hunter Biden is allowed. You know, the special counsels, when they come after Donald Trump, are illegal, but special counsels that go after Hunter Biden, that's acceptable. That's what they're going to say because they're fucking biased. They will bend the rules to do whatever the fuck they want. When conservative judges make rulings, they are bending the rules to protect the conservatives and harm the Democrats. Well,
or maybe Democrats are just out of line in terms of the Constitution.
No. Eileen Cannon has bent the law to protect the in-group and harm the out-group. That is what she's doing. That is what I think the Supreme Court has done. They've bent the law so that it does not harm Republicans because they don't want it to harm Republicans.
I don't think either of us knows the law well enough to make that statement. But I want to bring Popog in.
Yeah, I'm going to drag Popog into the waiting room.
He is here.
He is here. Hello, sir.
And I saw a green thing.
Popog's in the channel with us. I don't know if we can't hear him if he's talking. I can't hear anything he's saying. I see it lighting up.
I do too.
And you're in the same.
I would actually be interested to see I can't buttons also argue with Popog. If we can get sound to work.
I wrote a paper on this, U.S. Nixon. I'm terribly familiar with the concept of political accountability, so these last few weeks have rocked me. These judges are not meant to leave their bias at the door, but to have enough integrity to check it regards to the Constitution. Right, they're supposed to recognize their bias and hopefully not use it to make decisions. I think that's exactly what's happening with the Supreme Court and with Eileen Cannon. I think she is absolutely bending the law to benefit Donald Trump. Because she wants to, because she does not want conservatives to be held responsible for their actions. Republican violence is speech and Democrat speech is violence. They do not play the same way.
All right, let's see if we can get in here again.
Technical difficulties.
All right, is this working?
There he is.
There he is. Popog, our senior legal analyst. Thank you for coming on to the stream again. Thanks for being here. Tell us what you're thinking. Tell us what you're feeling.
All right, so I am sick, so apologies for that. And I'm also on mobile, so apologies for any technical problems.
It sounded good to me. So
awesome. So, all right, priors out of the way here. Eileen Cannon is definitely a hack who is like just delaying this as much as she can for political reasons, right? Like that's very transparent from looking at her judicial record on this case, where she like held oral arguments for amicus briefs, which is really, really weird. Whole bunch of nonsense, right?
Bias, baby. So would you use that word?
I would absolutely use that word 100%.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean she's wrong, right? She can be biased as hell and still get things right, stopped clock and everything, right? So from reading U.S. v. Nixon and then listening to the entirety of the oral arguments of U.S. v. Nixon, it's basically a lot of people on the right are saying like, oh, this ruling that special prosecutors were valid in U.S. v. Nixon, because there is a ruling in U.S. v. Nixon that special prosecutors are legitimate. And people on the right say that's what's called judicial dicta, which is basically to say it's a footnote, it's not a real ruling, it's not a part of the case, so we can kind of ignore it, and that's why Judge Cannon is not wrong. Those people are incorrect. It is definitely not dicta. So dicta very specifically has to mean the ruling that the court puts in there is not an important part of the ultimate ruling, right? It's an aside, it's a footnote, it's not necessary for the case to rule in the way that it did. That is not the case in U.S. v. Nixon. In U.S. v. Nixon, they ruled the special prosecutors were valid as kind of an aside thing, but obviously if they were invalid, they couldn't have ruled the way that they did ultimately, which is against Nixon and in favor of the prosecutors. So everyone who says on the right that it's dicta is just wrong. It is not dicta. It is definitely, somewhat at least, precedential, but it is probably also incorrect. So unfortunately, everyone in U.S. v. Nixon agreed to that stipulation. So that's why it's not dicta, but everyone on all sides agreed that the prosecutors were valid, so it was never argued before the court.
Okay,
so that's why could be wrong.
Everyone at that game of flag football decided that if you slap the flag, it counts, but that doesn't make it law for eternity. That doesn't
basically
make it the rule for every flag football game thereafter.
Yes, because then you could, if that was the case, then you could have two parties who both believe abortion should be illegal sue each other in a way where they're like, let's get abortion being illegal all the way up to the Supreme Court. And since we both agree on it, and it has to be the case for the ruling to come out the way that it is, then that would make the Supreme Court require abortion to be illegal just because all the parties involved believe it is.
Okay. Eileen
which
Cannon
is silly.
has suggested that Jack Smith's appointment is, but did she say illegal or just incorrect?
Yeah, basically unlawful.
Unlawful.
So she's
Is she correct on that?
I believe so. If I'm reading the stuff correctly, if I'm reading the actual laws correctly, I believe that she is probably correct. That particularly the only other case that people are talking about that this would be relevant to, which I'll get to in a second, is the Nixon case. The second prosecutor in the Nixon case and Jack Smith are the only two who would be affected by this, not Hunter Biden, not any of these other random prosecutions.
Why? Because
not Bill Clinton. So Bill Clinton is totally separate because Bill Clinton had a specific law passed called the independent counsel statute that has lapsed. So Bill Clinton is totally separate, unrelated.
This doesn't reverberate backwards, canceling all special prosecutors?
So it's the issue is the Constitution requires Congress to either directly appoint people or approve of their appointment, or vest that power in the agency through law. Right? And that issue is that the issue at hand here is that Congress has vested the power in the FBI to appoint FBI agents. Right? They're like, hey, FBI, you're allowed to hire FBI agents. We don't need to approve every single FBI agent.
Oh, but they haven't vested the power to appoint a special counsel.
Correct.
Do they ever, or do they only do that sometimes?
They only do it sometimes. That's the thing, is that they'll do it whenever they're setting up an agency. They'll be like, oh, you guys are going to need to staff a bunch of people. You can appoint inferior officers, and then you can appoint janitors and stuff, and we obviously don't need to review those, right? So there's a uniform exemption for janitors, where if you're not an officer of the or a sub-officer of the United States, you don't need approval from Congress at all. That's just a uniform rule in the Constitution. But if you are getting some of the powers of the executive that are like executive only powers, not ordinary citizen employee janitor powers, then Congress either needs to hold hearings and approve you as a U.S. attorney, or vest the power in the agency to do it themselves without congressional approval.
And that hasn't happened for Jack Smith?
That has not happened for Jack Smith as I read it. Okay. A lot of people point to
as you read it. That
the
makes me
FBI
nervous.
statute, the bill that creates the FBI, and in that statute it says that the Attorney General can hire officials, right? Can hire officials, which is the difference. There's officers versus officials is a question that's to be determined here, but the FBI has the power to hire officials. And U.S. v. Nixon actually reads that and cites that as one of the justifications for hiring the special counsel. But the special counsel is not a part of the FBI. And that's where, so this is like 16 U.S.C. 533, I think, is this statute. And people see this and they say, look, the Attorney General can hire anyone to assist them. But it's specifically an FBI statute. It's about the FBI. It's about staffing the FBI. And Jack Smith does not work for the FBI. So the reason why... So Jack Smith basically has, in my view, in my reading, and Eileen Cannon's viewing, no statute from which to hang his hat and get his authority. Right? There's no law where he is allowed to be appointed without congressional approval. And so that basically means he has no power. Because he's just an ordinary citizen.
She just found this out today? Or did she suggest this 2 damn years ago when he began this shit?
She wrote a 93-page
and released it this week. Great. Did she know this 2 years ago?
So the reason why she probably put this now, one is because Trump's lawyers have been making this argument for 2 years, but is because of Justice Thomas's opinion in the immunity case where he suggested this.
That's what I was kind of getting to. The Supreme Court has made that immunity case. That now changes the things that Eileen Cannon's allowed to do. So their change trickles down to her. She makes another change. This trickles back up to them. And I think they're doing this blatantly, obviously, on purpose to protect Donald Trump.
I think she certainly is. I think that's pretty clearly her motivation. Thomas, honestly, from the history of Thomas writing opinions, Thomas writes opinions because he likes to be weird. Like, that is genuinely his judicial canon, is like he wants to write some weird thing because he never asks any questions during oral arguments. He's like really, really slow, just like he's smart, but he is like slow as molasses. Like, he'll get to smart things, but he is too slow for oral arguments. It's kind of a major bummer and why he kind of sucks.
Okay.
Obviously, Justice Thomas, not me, Thomas.
Mr. Thomas on the stream with us.
Not Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas is slow in a different way.
Hey! Coming out swinging us 2 strikes today. All right.
Man.
2 attacks.
Hurtful.
Double.
I'm sorry. But so Justice Thomas literally writes opinions to be weird. Like, I swear to God, half of his opinions that he writes are just weird nonsense ramblings that no one else cares about. That's his style.
Oh, that's my style too. That's what I do into a camera 3 times a week. Maybe he should be a podcaster instead of a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, probably. Except his podcast would be at like 3 words a minute.
So she has suggested that this special counsel is unlawful. This would also trickle to the Nixon one, but not to some other ones that have been approved by Congress.
Correct. So the reason why this would not hit Hunter Biden is because, so if you think about it this way, where attorneys have the power to, like, U.S. attorneys have special powers where they can, subpoena you and, like, bring charges against you and all this stuff, right? Those are their superpowers as U.S. attorneys. Congress is the one who gives them those superpowers, right? Well, Congress did give Hunter Biden's prosecutor those superpowers because Hunter Biden's prosecutor is a normal U.S. attorney who was turned into a special counsel.
Okay.
So they already have all their superpowers to do stuff. The special counsel appointment is more of an executive agreement that I'm not your boss anymore. I can't fire you so that my boss, Joe, can't hold pressure over you.
Right.
Right.
Wait. Are you suggesting that Jack Smith is not an actual U.S. attorney?
Jack Smith is not a U.S. attorney. Jack Smith is a random attorney.
Holy fuck.
He worked at the Hague or something like that, right? So
yes,
that's why they kind of picked him, because he had done investigations into other countries and corruption before, which is why they thought that he was qualified to do this.
Yes, so he is attorney. He's a real attorney, but he is not a U.S. empowered by Congress attorney.
Oh my God. Okay, so this actually screams of you guys ever seen Suits?
I know that it exists.
I do not like this show.
I know that it exists.
So the main character of like the first 7 seasons is named Mike Ross, and he basically fakes being an attorney for like 5 seasons.
Does he win a bunch of cases?
And wins a bunch of cases.
Well, then he's an attorney, if you ask me, but go on.
But he's not actually qualified to be an attorney. And in this case, this dude has been appointed as a U.S. attorney.
Special counsel.
He's not one.
It's not that they picked him up off the street from the bus stop. I mean, he was an attorney for The Hague.
Yes, but the legal argument that they have to make is that they could have picked him up off a bus stop. That's the problem. Is that
they did U.S. government cross the T's and dot the I's? So
they did. Well, they didn't get Congress to approve him, right? And so their argument has to be, the Biden administration's argument has to be that we're allowed to pick up a random person off the street and say that person is now a special prosecutor. That's the legal basis that they can fulfill or have to stand behind. And that's a weird argument.
I mean, he was chosen by the Attorney General, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the Attorney General chose him based on his merits and his position and his qualifications.
But the power of choosing has not been vested in the Attorney General.
Right, which means if he had done a better job, he would have chosen this guy, then gotten it passed through Congress?
Either that, or he would have picked someone who was already approved by Congressperson, which was the case for the first prosecutor in U.S. v. Nixon, whose name I forget. I forget both of their names, actually, so it doesn't matter.
But they got fired on the Saturday Night Massacre?
Yes, and the guy who replaced him was not a U.S. attorney, so that would his appointment would potentially be invalid, although it's all moot at this point because he got pardoned, so all of those things went away.
Right. I hate this. Christ almighty, I fucking can't. They will find every fucking loophole. Is this not a loophole?
I would definitely describe this as a loophole, although I would say it's a congressionally, like, it's a separation of powers important loophole in the same way that all of the arguments in both directions on U.S. v. Nixon were kind of loophole arguments at each other.
I actually wouldn't call this a loophole at all. I'd call it a failure by the Attorney General to select an appropriate prosecutor.
The prosecutor's appropriate. He just didn't fucking follow the one weird law. He didn't just.
It's not appropriate.
This isn't the first time. Popok, how many of these special prosecutors have not had?
None of this is not a matter of appropriate. It's a matter of a failure.
Most special prosecutors are U.S. attorneys. Is the way I've looked through a couple, and it seems like most of the time they pick people who are either U.S. attorneys or former U.S. attorneys. Which former U.S. attorneys, the argument is that since Congress already approved them, and those appointments are without approval is essentially eternal until they're dismissed. That the dismissal doesn't necessarily negate the congressional approval. That has never been tested, but it's a better argument than a rando off the street, right?
So the real question is, who is the AG that appointed Jack Smith, and is that AG up for re-election anytime soon? Because
they're appointed.
Man, a failure like that.
Yeah, I mean they'll be switched when Trump takes office.
Well, sure.
Basically,
if Trump wins, he'll put a different AG.
Yeah, what a fucking failure.
Fucking paperwork again. Fucking Christ, this is a loophole.
In court, paperwork is pretty much the most important.
Paperwork
thing.
is most important, but not fucking Christ Almighty. Donald Trump fucking dodges responsibility again because of fucking legal loopholes.
No, because somebody fucked up.
Legal loopholes. Did he do the things? Yes. I mean, we all fucking know he did the thing, but we can't fucking prosecute him for it because of horse shit. I would call it loophole, Thomas, shit. Because fucking
like if you look,
loopholes.
If you look at the what's that guy's name? The gloves don't fit murderer. I just forgot.
OJ,
right? OJ Simpson got off on loopholes.
Oh no, right? He did not. He got off on
loopholes.
A number of fucking mistakes by the prosecution. First of all, the fact of the gloves is like you never ever put the evidence in the hands of the accused. Never. You never do that. Yeah. That's the worst thing you could do, and they did.
I would still call most of the things that they did in terms of like evidence exclusion, right? They're loopholes. They're still important, right? But like I would still, or maybe just call them technicalities, right?
Technicalities. Okay. Maybe I would. I might stop using the word loophole and say technicality then. I will take that back. This is a technicality. Donald Trump gets to fucking get off for the crimes that he clearly, but obviously admitted, and we all know he did. All the evidence is there. We all know it's true. But technicalities prevent
the
government
will say
from
holding
him responsible.
On technicalities. So
I could have I could spend a whole stream on the OJ case. That guy was fucking guilty.
Well, let's not talk about OJ at the moment. Let's suggest that Donald Trump is getting off on a technicality. Would you both agree with that sentence? Donald Trump is going to dodge responsibility for this because of technicalities?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
I fucking hate it. And he's going to fucking win. He's going to get out of this. The Supreme Court's going to come down because they want to. They feel like Donald Trump shouldn't be held responsible. So they will bend the rules. They will bend the laws around they'll bend it in circles. They'll tie it in fucking knots just to avoid Donald Trump being held responsible because they're fucking biased.
I mean, Eileen Cannon definitely will, but I'm not sure that the Supreme Court will.
I think they already have. I think that the immunity decision is nonsense, that they would not have done if Donald Trump weren't being charged.
I disagree. I think that there are parts of the immunity decision that are not great, but that particularly the dissent on the immunity decision is the worst kind of nonsense that has no basis whatsoever in law.
It's all correct. I read those dissents. It's all correct.
They're just wrong. The basis of those dissents then would have, like I said, the ability to convict AOC for voting for aid for Iran.
No, it wouldn't.
Because she lacks.
That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so let's go through it. Let's walk through
She's
it. My
doing
example
a specific thing for the government. You and I have discussed this before. She's doing a government role.
Correct, and so is Trump. And the thing that when he talks to his attorney general, he is required by law to do that.
He is not required by law to overturn the election.
Correct, he is not.
You have to prove motive in cases, don't you?
Motive plays no part in immunity.
Motive plays no part in immunity. If
your action has immunity, your motive does not matter.
Right, and that's fucking insane to me, right?
That is, but that's true for all immunity. That's true for AOC's immunity as well. If her reason why she wants to give Iran money is because she wants to overthrow the United States government and loves Iran and wants to turn us into an Islamic caliphate, and she writes that in her diary as to why she's going to vote for the Iranian aid bill, she is still immune from prosecution because her voting is a duty bestowed to her by the Constitution.
What part of Donald Trump having that rally and firing the people up was part of his official act? What part of that? What part of?
So that is not part of the
him
court
calling that phone call, the perfect phone call. What part of that is?
Well, that's why I agree more with a lot of Barrett's concurrence. Rather, like I said, the majority ruling, I think, has a lot of problems, particularly on its evidentiary basis ruling, which makes sense as a compromise because you have to have some kind of compromise, and it makes sense, but I don't like it as much as Barrett's concurrence. But the dissents all claim there is no such thing as any presidential immunity, which literally makes no sense, and like I said, would allow you, if there's no presidential immunity, and there's also, as there is no in the Constitution, no judicial immunity and a very limited speech and debate clause or speech or debate clause of congressional immunity, then AOC could be convicted for voting, and the Supreme Court could be convicted for ruling in specific ways, or any judge could be convicted for ruling in specific ways, and neither of those are true.
And who is going to make those decisions on whether or not AOC is held responsible?
Well, the Attorney General would.
Well, right? Okay. The Supreme Court would make those decisions about AOC, right?
Ultimately,
whether or not she is immune. The Attorney General under Donald Trump brings AOC up under charges that she voted yes on this bill to aid Palestine, and that's a crime. And then she would fight it, and they would argue, and then the Supreme Court would then decide whether or not that was an official action, right?
Correct. And more importantly, they would decide that whether or not congressional official actions have immunity, and they would decide absolutely yes, they do. That has been the historic precedent from some. None of them got to the Supreme Court, but they have been in lower courts.
Do you think that's going to happen soon?
No, I doubt it.
So that issue isn't going to be brought up before the Supreme Court?
I believe every single person, every single judge believes that Congress has immunity for their votes.
For their votes, sure.
Right. Which is the action she would be capable of being prosecuted for, because that would be the material aid action.
Okay.
Because you need to take a material act in order to be convicted for treason or similar crimes.
Okay. I'm not upset with Donald Trump for his official actions. It's his unofficial ones that I'm upset with. And now we can't even use any discussion he had with the attorney general or anything like that to determine. We can't use that as evidence. His phone call from the Oval Office to the governor of Georgia is recorded. We know it, and it sure seems like he's fucking breaking the law there. But we can't use that because it's an official action. Or they're going to call it an official action.
That act is maybe official or not. It's it may be in the parameter.
You have to distinguish between what is and is not an official action in the first place.
Who's
going to
do that? The Supreme Court. Who I'm suggesting, the A court makes a decision. It doesn't matter what decision it comes to. It will be appealed by the losing side. The court makes a decision, yes or no. It doesn't matter. It's going to be appealed by the losing side. Then it gets appealed by the losing side again, and if it swaps, the new losing side is going to appeal again, and it's going to get to the Supreme Court. Especially when it comes to the president. Every decision on whether or not the president's actions were an official or an unofficial act will appear before the Supreme Court, who
has
I am
made the
telling
decision,
you,
first of all,
bending over backwards to help him.
They've made the decision already, first of all, that official acts do have immunity, and that's it. His other acts don't. So when the case makes it to the Supreme Court, their determination on whether or not that is, in fact, an official act,
will come down 6-3. It'll be 6-3 along the fucking party lines. Yeah, it fucking will. It fucking will. I think it will. I think it'll be 6-3 along the party lines. Even Amy COVID Barrett said so. Well, okay, sorry. She didn't say that. Amy COVID Barrett, that is her name, was lamenting, kind of, and suggesting that, hey, it's almost impossible for anything to not be an official act.
And this is why I like Barrett's concurrence better, is because I think it has better standards. I agree with the majority in terms of core acts, just point blank have to be, right? That there's no other way, there's no other possible reading of what an executive branch is if it doesn't have immunity for its absolute core acts, right?
Right.
But I disagree with them on the evidentiary basis, where it's like, particularly for the bribery thing, right? Like, that's the most compelling, particularly in any of the dissents, that's the most compelling part of any of the dissents, and it's the most compelling part of ACB's thing, is you need to be able, if you're taking a bribe for a pardon, the legal part that the president essentially can't be prosecuted for is giving the pardon, because that is a core constitutional power that they are given. But when they grab the money from the other person's hand and put it in their pocket, that is illegal. That is not a core presidential act. There's nowhere in the Constitution that says grab people's money and put it in your pocket to influence your decisions.
Okay,
right?
Great. So
but
hypothetically,
to prosecute them, you would still need to show that, hey, the pardon occurred. We're not prosecuting them for the pardon. The pardon is not a thing we can prosecute them for. We are prosecuting them for the taking the money and putting it in their pocket. But it's really hard to show quid pro quo if you can't show the quo.
If you can't do the investigation, if you can't use any official things that are happening as factual basis. Anything that will be an official act would be not able to become part of the investigation or the evidence, and that will be all the things. And his lawyers will fight every single action, every bit of that. I like that hypothetical you set up. Somebody has paid the president for a pardon. If that happens in the Oval Office, the lawyers for the president, whoever it is, will say it's an official act. It happened in the Oval Office, and he used the official telephone, and he used the official presidential Twitter and the presidential government phone to do all these things. That makes it an official act, and you can't investigate them.
That's, to me, honestly, that I would vote for a president whose campaign is, I will take a bribe to give a pardon and then appoint a special prosecutor against myself, and then take it all the way to the Supreme Court in order to get a ruling on this. That'd be a good campaign promise in my book.
This increases the president's power, yeah?
I mean, depends on what you think, but yes, it is certainly the opposite ruling would, I think, cripple the federal government, which I'm okay with. I mean, I'm totally fine with Like I said, if you do the opposite or pass a constitutional amendment that says they don't have immunity, which is, hey, if you pass it through constitutional amendment, that's how it works. I'm totally cool with that because it means that the federal government could be prosecuted for any random administrative change that they make. When they flop on net neutrality, then you can potentially prosecute the president for that flip flop as as it may apply to any particular business interference laws. Right? It'd be great. It would totally cripple the federal government, and I'm all for it.
All right, Thomas, do you think that the Supreme Court has lately, over these past couple of decisions, increased the power of the presidency?
Not really.
Hint, no. Chevron.
Yeah, that increases the power of the presidency. I think you told
Chevron? No.
I don't think they have, though.
Are you guys semantically telling me that it doesn't increase his power, and it's just that it's not increasing because it's always been there?
It
Chevron
has always been there.
Okay, so it's not an increase; it's always been that high. It's just nobody noticed. President
have been there, and the matter of whether or not the president can exercise certain powers or not has always been something that's afforded to the legislator and the Supreme Court. It's the matter of checks and balances.
So this isn't an increase in the president's power.
No.
You've just simply found a new room in your house. That doesn't increase the size of your house. You've just never seen that door before. And now that you've opened that door, you have a whole new room in there. That didn't increase the size of your house because it's always been there. You just didn't know it? Is that the
powers afforded to the executive branch have always been the powers afforded to the executive branch. And it's a matter of whether or not the legislature and the judicial branch are willing to check it or not.
Yeah, but the evidentiary rules are definitely new, right? Like whether or not the president has had immunity, which I think it's true, they must have always had some form of immunity. These specific rules, and particularly the evidentiary rules, I think are a direct increase because I don't think anyone assumed that those evidentiary rules existed.
I don't think anyone assumed that these circumstances would exist.
Okay, so no one assumed that you could do it. No one assumed that you could do it. And that's why the presidents didn't do it in the past. But now the Supreme Court has come out with Chevron and said, you can do it. But that's not an increase in his power?
Are we talking about Chevron or are we talking about immunity?
I thought we were talking about Chevron.
Chevron is the exact opposite.
I think both increase the president's power. Both of them do.
Well, you're just wrong about the overturning of Chevron. Like Chevron itself increased the president's powers. The overturning of Chevron through Loper Bright and Relentless absolutely decreases the president's powers.
Decreases the president's power. How?
100%.
Everything I've read has suggested that he can reschedule everybody and has complete and total control over every single person within the administrative state.
Well, okay, that may or may not be the case based on some other future rulings, but that has nothing to do with Loper Bright and Relentless, right? So, brief history lesson about what Chevron is for everyone involved here. The EPA says that you're allowed to if you're a power plant, right, then when you're making modifications to your plant, if your modifications decrease the emissions of a single source, you're all good, no approval needed. But if your modifications increase the emissions of a single source, single stationary source, then you have to go get a waiver from the EPA. All right? Make sense? Everybody know what that means?
I'm on board so far.
All right. So the goal of the law is, hey, got to be decreasing emissions over time or, at least keeping them the same, right? I think administration changes to Reagan, I think. I think it's under Reagan. Don't really remember. Wasn't alive then. But anyway, the EPA, so what is a stationary source, right? Nobody knows what a stationary source is. The EPA previously ruled that it was a single smokestack. So if you have a power plant with 3 generators and 5 smokestacks, where some of the generators go into 2 different smokestacks, weirdly, your generators are not the single sources. Some of your generators are 2 single sources because they go into 2 smokestacks. A little bit weird, but it's what they ruled. So Reagan administration comes in and says, hey, we're actually going to treat single source as a big bubble around the power plant, right? Where that's the single source, the whole power plant. So if you shut off an old, inefficient generator and replace it with a new, more efficient generator, and that causes you to shut off a couple of your smokestacks because that generator is no longer there and your new generator is there, but it's putting out more out of the two smokestacks or the one smokestack that it's using, right? That one smokestack goes up, but you shut off a couple, so your net goes down. We're going to count that as a win, right? That's the new
That's the
Reagan
EPA that came up with this idea.
The Reagan EPA.
Reagan EPA. Okay, great.
So, a bunch of lawsuits happen that say, no, you're not allowed to change that. It's supposed to be what it is forever, and that should be stuck as the smokestacks. Reagan should not be allowed to do this.
Wait.
Right?
Hold on. I don't understand this. So you're saying that if you shut down a smokestack, but your overall pollution increases, that was counted as a win?
No. I'm saying that let's say you have 5 smokestacks, and
Okay.
each smokestack is emitting 100 units of pollution, right? So yeah, your total is 500 because you got 5 smokestacks. Each one emits 100. I rejigger my generators, make a new fancy dancy eco generator, and I turn off some of my old generators. So I had 5 smokestacks. I turn 2 of them off, right? So 2 are emitting 0 now. And then I take one of my generators, my new one is going to emit 150 out of one of the smokestacks, right? So under the old rule, not allowed. You're not allowed to do this because you went from 100 to 150 on a single smokestack. Under the new rule,
but now
I
you went from 500 to 350. Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds about right. I mean, that's a good policy.
Yeah. Now the question is whether or not the agency had the authority to do this, because the law says single source. Single source theoretically should mean something, or should single source be allowed to change every administration? Every 4 to 8 years. Should that just term mean something new each time? And what does that mean in terms of retroactive? Right? Can whoever follows Reagan punish the people who did it under Reagan because they broke the law and they didn't get the permit, right? Like, there's a whole complicated thing here of are you allowed to do this? And the court said, look, we just don't want to put our thumb on the scale politically here, right? We're going to let the administrations decide this. They're the experts here. We're just going to defer to them and create this new deference rule that says,
makes sense.
Literally, everyone kind of agrees at the time that this is a pretty sensible. Liberals hate it because it's helping Reagan do his evil crony pollution stuff, and conservatives love it because they're like, it's helping us build our new conservative state, whatever. So that's the original, and it flips and flops based on who's in charge. And now conservatives hate it because it's building an administrative state that's crushing us, and liberals love it because they're like, we can't get our progressive agenda through Congress, so we can do it through this. So that's the state of it before this Loper Bright and Relentless come around. So in general, this kind of rule is ignored for the first little bit of its history. No one really treats it as anything. They're like, okay, that decision happened, but this rule just isn't that applicable in most of the cases, right? Because the rule requires there to be an ambiguity in the statute, and then
Well, it doesn't though, and don't most laws, or at least the ones I've read, or at least proposed ones, don't they usually define what they mean by certain terms? So
most of the time, but a lot of those definitions don't necessarily go all the way down, right? So there's, for example, regulations
I would
about
assume
where
that single source has got to have a definition, right?
it does not.
That sounds like that needs fixing. you need to fix the definition of single source so that you can actually apply the law properly. And
it'll contain words, and those words will each have their own definition as well. At some point, these bills become 9,000, 10,000 pages long, where you have to describe every single definition and to define the definitions and then define the words that are in those definitions.
You define the definitions on just about every bill has definitions down the line. It's the first 10 pages of every bill is here's what our definitions are, and so. Why does single source?
Okay, so
if it's become this big of a problem, the next bill that goes on this issue should define single source. That's my opinion.
Thomas is hitting on what I think the correct solution is, which is that the Supreme Court physically locks Congress in session and doesn't allow them food or water until they solve it.
To come up with a definition
Would be
for
amazing.
single source?
Yeah. It's like, hey, this term is ambiguous and it does have a real controversy. So you guys are now in session and we'll give you each of you get 1 glass of water a day until you solve this.
I mean, don't we already have a system for that where the plaintiff and the defendant come in front of a judge? And then the judge
but the point
makes
is
a
that
decision?
if the court comes to the decision where it's like, well, any resolution to this is a political solution, which it would have been in this case, right?
Everything is politics. Maybe that's what they don't know. Maybe they haven't heard my spiel that everything is politics.
So if it gets to a level 10 politics solution, right?
Okay.
Then force Congress into session, beat the shit out of them a little bit, and say, hey, solve this, Congress.
So
but
with the
to get where we are in terms of
what happened last week? What happened 2 weeks ago? Sorry, it's probably like 3 weeks ago now.
So there's this fishing agency called the National Marine Life Dick Suckers Association. I don't remember what they're called. They have the duty to prevent overfishing.
And
right?
by law, the Congress passed a law said you have to have this person on your boat, right?
Yeah, that's basically the law. Well, you have to allow them on your boat. You don't always have to have them. It's up to them whether or not they want to come on your boat.
Okay.
And in that law, it has a provision that says if you're a foreign vessel, you have to pay that person's salary, right? Or the agency can require you to. You don't once again, it's not automatic. It's up to the agency if they want to extract that fee from the foreign vessel, right? And there's a couple other types of vessels that are under different provisions that say if this is a North Atlantic salmon vessel, we can also impose that fee, right?
Okay.
So, Loper Bright and Relentless were not any of those types of vessels, right? They're not any of the listed types of fee-applicable vessels, right? And note, when I say listed types, there is not a list in this. They're in random sections of this law, scattered all over the place, because that's how you write laws, is you just throw words at a dartboard, and that's your law. Never make a law clear, always make it random. That's the rule, which we'll get to in a second why that's not a joke. That's actually apparently the rule. Anyway, that's the law, and these two, the fishing agency says, we're going to make you pay the fees anyway, because the law is ambiguous as to whether or not we can. It says we can in these cases, but it doesn't say we can't for everyone else. And that's stupid and obviously wrong. So it gets all the way up to the Supreme Court because even though it's stupid and obviously wrong, that is not the standard that Chevron sets. Chevron sets a ridiculously low standard for agencies where they automatically win any case if they say the magic words. And the magic words are not the most absolutely egregiously wrong. That's the standard that Chevron sets, is that agencies sort of auto-win any ambiguity, and that means they get to dismiss cases super early just from saying these magic words.
The magic words being?
Chevron deference.
Chevron deference, okay. So...
And the standard for this is also, just to be clear about how ridiculous this standard was. So I'll take it to a vein I know a little bit more about, net neutrality, right? So in net neutrality, you have the common carrier and you have information services, right? Those are the two types, and net neutrality means you're a common carrier and information services means you're not, right?
Okay.
So that's the thing that keeps flip-flopping, is whether or not Comcast is a common carrier or if it's an information service, right? That's what keeps flipping back and forth. So if there was a special program that says, if you're a common carrier, you get $100. If you're a information service, you get $50, right? That's these new programs just introduced, okay? You, Waldo, are the owner of Comcast, Congratulations.
Oh, good.
You go to the government and you say, where's my money? Either give me $100 or $50. I don't care which, depending on whatever you classified me as. And they say, we're not going to give you any money. And you sue them. And you go to the court and you say, under law A, you guys owe me $100, and under law B, you owe me $50, right? Well, if they move to dismiss law A, your lawsuit under law A, under the basis that you're classified as an information service. And the court agrees. The court says, well, Chevron deference, I gotta say they're right. So that law is inapplicable, dismissed. They then make another motion to dismiss, saying, actually, Waldo, turns out, is a common carrier, so he's ineligible for the $50. We move to dismiss. The court says, well, I gotta agree, and dismisses the lawsuit. And you get no money. So that is how Chevron deference, as legally written, could apply. Has that case ever happened? No, because that's too stupid, and no judge would approve it.
So it's never
But that
happened,
is how it was written.
Right? And I think we've overturned, I think the overturning of it is going to lead the executive branch to have more power.
What power does the executive branch have that they didn't prior to this overturning?
They will be... Okay. They'll get to tell. They'll have more authority over who is and isn't in the in those agencies, and they'll
this law has no bearing on that.
Okay. I don't remember
anymore.
That's
a future lawsuit.
I don't fucking remember anymore. I was reading about it last week, and it seemed like they were going to get more power. So you're saying this isn't going to give the president more power?
This specifically gives the president less power. He no longer has the power to change, or rather, there is a much more limited authority where, in order to change the meaning of a law, where the law says single source or whatever, they have to follow the rules set out by Congress in the Administrative Procedures Act of
So it gives the judiciary more power. The judges are going to be making those decisions.
The judiciary and Congress more power. So it gives Congress more power.
So when in those situations where it is vague, the judge is going to decide, or the legislature has to write a law, which they can't and they won't because they can't function any longer. So the judiciary will be making those decisions. Am I a crazy person for thinking that a fucking backwoods Alabama judge is going to be making decisions on parts per million of bromine in the Gulf of Mexico?
That may happen, and it may happen more. I don't disagree with that. I think that is a valid concern. But here are the reasons why that was basically... So there's a couple things. One is that Chevron deference may be a reason why Congress doesn't work. Maybe one of the contributing factors to Congress not working. And part of that is like this illusion effect of like Congress was only able... Congress started falling back to writing laws that were super ambiguous so they could get all the votes and didn't have to do any work.
They're wieners. I agree.
Yes.
They want to be vague. They don't want to be passing difficult things. They don't want to be debating the ups and downs. You'd lose voters over that. They want to be live streamers. They want to look into a camera and tell you how they feel.
And so Chevron deference empowered them to do that.
Okay.
Because it let them just do whatever.
So with the wieners that we have in Congress right now, I think it's going to go to the judges. I think I will take back the idea that it gives the president more power. It gives the judges more power. This is what I was worried about. It makes this is the complaint I had for 4 weeks ago, that we now have 9 high priests that get to decide what is and isn't legal. And I think that all of the
Congress
judges
grants them that power.
Well,
right?
I think all of the little judges are going to do that. I think they overturned not Roe, but the other one that you like to call it.
Planned Parenthood v. Casey.
Yeah, they overturned Casey, and then an Alabama judge said IVF is illegal. Right? Like that was why that Alabama judge did so. And I think that's going to happen with lots and lots and lots and lots of shit. They've overturned Chevron, and so a judge in Florida is going to say, oh, well, this fishing thing is now overturned, and it's going to cause some chaos. And then somebody in Georgia is going to, some judge in Georgia is going to say, oh, well, this is overturned now, and we're going to get so many overturns over the next couple of years that it's going to be wild, and we will be chaos filled, and the Supreme Court will handpick the ones that they want to rule on that moves the country to the right. They will choose and not choose. They will choose the ones that they think can turn the country to the right and ignore the ones that might move to the country to the left. That's the wild accusation that I am making.
I mean, you're free to have that fear. I think it's not a totally invalid fear in certain aspects of it. I don't think that the Supreme Court is as political as you are describing. I think it's particularly Roberts as leading the court is, I think, doing a great job of minimizing that compared to previous Supreme Courts. So I'm not as concerned about that, despite I think the Republican Party is certainly trying to do what you're saying. So I think that's why it's not an invalid concern. But I don't think that the Supreme Court level has that. I mean, particularly if you look at Trump's appointees, right? All three of Trump's appointees are not that. And the two people on the court who are the most concerning about that are the people who've been on the court the longest and are unrelated to Trump in any way, shape, or form.
Thomas and
Alito.
Yeah. Those are the most conservative. I could probably agree with that.
Yeah, like they are the most contentious and partisan, other than Sotomayor, right? Sotomayor is obviously the most partisan member of the court, but outside of her, the most conservative partisan members of the court are unrelated to modern Trump republicanism. But on a like general judge appointment level, I think what you're saying is more true because we have judges like Eileen Cannon being appointed, right?
Right, and that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that the Heritage Foundation and the Federalist Society have swamped the courts, and now with this Chevron decision, they have made it where they and their court appointed people, and all the conservatives they've appointed to the court are now making all the decisions. They could be checked by the legislature, but they won't be because the legislature is a fucking joke who doesn't do anything and doesn't want to do anything. So I think we're all now a country ruled by judges, and those judges will make those decisions about just everything. And then
previously we were a country ruled by agencies.
If you don't like, I liked the agencies better. Yes, I would prefer to be ruled by agencies than judges. Yes, I'm telling you specifically that. Absolutely. I'd rather be ruled by the EPA than a fucking Alabama judge.
Yeah, I would rather not. Like, technocratic bureaucracy sounds terrible to me, so.
I'd rather not be ruled by any of those things and actually have a system of government with, checks and balances and, 3 branches with an executive, a legislative, and a judicial branch and all that. But I do have a solution to that because it seems like our executive branch is willing to do things and our judicial branch is willing to do things. And the complaint that you have is that the legislative branch is not willing to do the things that it's supposed to do.
Right.
And,
they don't.
And so here is my parting comment because it is 1 o'clock. And
I was about to wrap
hungry.
it up, but by all means.
Stop electing weenies. And that's it.
Don't elect wieners. I agree. But hey, guess what? The elections are about feelings. And the person who makes them feel the best is the one who wins. I don't know
Elections are about feelings, and we love feeling wieners.
We love feeling wieners. Wieners have lots of feelings. And people aren't voting based on what is real. They're not voting on facts and policies and issues. Well, there might be a voting on issues, but they're voting based on their feelings about who can make them feel the certain way about the issue, who can make them feel the most secure, who can make them feel the most stuff. It's all about feelings. It always has been. And what we get is actors. What we get is that RNC a couple of days ago that had musical acts and people cheering, and it was all feelings and no policy and all excitement, and Hulk Hogan came out and ripped his shirt and everybody was excited, and then Trump plays up the feelings about his shot ear, and
I don't know. I think Hulk Hogan's speech about monetary policy was pretty, on point.
We need two different systems. We need a prime minister and we need a president. We need a president who's an actor, and then we need a prime minister who's like a really boring, doesn't really do anything but just crunches the numbers almost. That's my wild idea. I know. Anything else before we call it for the day?
I got nothing.
Popog, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for being our legal senior legal analyst. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thomas, anything to say before we call it for the day?
Gold team rules.
Gold team rules. My name is Waldo. This has been Thomas and Popog. If you want to be as cool as them, you could be almost possibly as cool as them if you go to the Discord. That Discord right there is where everybody hangs out, where we argue and talk about stuff like that. It's the Discord we're using right now to speak to each other. You could be there if you were cool enough. Don't you want to be cool? Go there and say hello and put links into the chat, and I will bring those links up onto the screen, and we can talk about them. We can all feel them together. And if you would like to watch old videos with some of these people, you can do so at the YouTube link right there. And go there, give it a thumbs up, give it a +1, give it a bell, ring the bell, unring the bell. I don't know. Press the buttons, press any button. It doesn't matter which one. And that is it for me today. I appreciate it. I'll be back on Monday night. Should be Monday night, unless I'm super busy. I Can't Buttons, thanks for being the new follower. Thanks for hopping into chat. I appreciate it. And I think I see you there in Discord as well. So give us some links, things to talk about. And that is it for me today. Thank you very much. Everybody have a good day. Goodbye.